Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men. We will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
The other schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
this one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
The epitome of what this team has done, right? Gavin homers, Jace homers, Braden homers, Chris Cortez, 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Well, who's in the Final Four for the second time in the last 3 years? That would be your Texas A&M Fighting Aggie baseball team. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño. He's Olin Buchanan. He's our Heisman Trophy voter, baseball enthusiast, and also yoga instructor. OB, let's get into it, man. That was an enjoyable game. Even though the first 6 innings I was biting my nails, it was an enjoyable baseball experience for me.
Yeah, it was for me too, especially since A&M won. But there was a lot of frustration early because you kept thinking A&M was getting guys on. When are you going to break through? But Prager was just
brilliant,
magnificent. Yeah, brilliant, magnificent. You know, take out the whole thesaurus.
Carson, final word that starts with P for Prager. Go ahead.
So anyway, he was all those things, and phenomenal. Starts with a P.
That's the word. That's the one. Game over. I'm sure there's a word that we don't use often in the English language
that actually has a P sound and not a PH. And then finally, you know, they broke through, and what would they put up 5 runs in an inning? Was that what it was?
Yep.
And then you felt like, okay, Prager's just so good. That's gonna
Do you
be
realize?
enough.
Maybe I'm an idiot. I knew he was pitching fantastic. Like, I knew it. I don't think it registered he had a no-no until maybe the early 5th inning. Like, I was aware they weren't getting hits, right? But, like, the thought, no hitter is happening until the 5th inning, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, probably because that opening error.
Right.
Or that early error. I don't know if it was opening or early. I thought it was opening. But anyway, and so even though it's not an error, you know, you get in your mind, okay, but yeah, I was aware, and I kept thinking, you know, you can't take him out until he at least gives up a hit, and then he gave up a hit with two out in the 6th, and he was just.
How about the defense?
The defense,
brilliant defense,
with the exception of that one early play. Yeah, well, there was another one later.
Yeah.
Caden Kent, man, what a. I don't even know what's the word I want to use for what he's done. You know, here's a guy that
Carson Kent
was just thrust into the lineup, and now you're like, what took so long?
Look at this. As a starter in the postseason, 6 of 12, extra base hits 2, 7 RBI, 2 runs, 1 walk.
And that doesn't even tell you about what he's done in the field.
No, he
had the play of the game, I thought.
There obviously, to be at this level, magical things have to happen. But we're watching these magical things happen, man. We're actually watching. Look at that freaking play.
Just show if you're not, you know, if you're listening on radio, of course you can't see it, but we're just showing the highlight of, you know, Kentucky's rallying. They got 2 on with 1 out in the 7th.
Yeah.
And Caden Kent has been moved from 2nd to 3rd because of injury issues that we're going to get into a little bit later. And there's a hot shot at 3rd, and he gloves it, steps on 3rd base, and rifles the throw over. Double play, end of threat, end of stress.
So Prager was phenomenal, but there was a stretch of the game where Mason Moore was matching him, the Kentucky pitcher. And I didn't know much about him, but apparently before his most recent outing, he had been excellent in postseason appearances. I think he had allowed 10 hits and just 1 earned run throughout his career. entering the 6th inning, he had only given up 2 hits, no runs, no walks. Then he let off that first walk, and then he started giving up hits, and that's when the crack or the dam was cracked.
It was glorious. At the time, I didn't think when they got up 2-0, I didn't think that's not going to be enough. I thought, of course, it turns out it would be, but I was still very nervous. And then Camarillo comes up with a double, and then Caden Kent with
for a team that's
single.
so good defensively, they didn't play that well. It was a great hit, obviously, but like he skies it over the outfielder, and his reaction when he got the second. I felt that. He's like, oh, let's go.
Yeah, I was doing it right back in my living room. I think to give the right fielder a little bit of a break, they were playing him
a little closer because the wind had been such an issue. And then it must have, at that point, the wind started to subside because later, Kentucky guy hit a home run in the right field where I don't think earlier in the game it would have been able to get out. And so, look, I don't know all the intricacies and details on why it got over his head. I'm just glad it did. And then, of course, Kent came through with a 2-run single, and you're up 5-0, and you're thinking. Like that, you're up 5-0, right?
Yeah.
After a nail-biter, you're up 5-0. And when they were up 5-0, I wasn't convinced we were going to win, because it's postseason play.
Right.
But I felt pretty darn good about it, especially the way Prager was rolling.
Right.
And I'm like, if they have to go to Evan Aschenbeck, they can. If they have to go to Chris Cortez for a batter, they can. And guess what? They didn't have to.
They didn't have to. Josh Stewart came in and pitched really well.
There was a couple of moments I was like, and he found his way. I mean, didn't he start the game, or his first appearance was a strikeout and ended it with a strikeout? Am I getting it confused?
Maybe. Wasn't he the guy that threw the pitch that Caden Kent, they got hit hard and Caden Kent gloved? And so wouldn't that have been his first batter?
I thought he struck out his first batter, but I might be wrong. But
because there were 2 outs when he came in.
Yeah.
Because Prager had gotten the first 2, and then I don't know if he gave up a walk or a hit or what.
We can double check that.
I guess
he
struck out his first batter.
Yeah, he struck out his first batter. Yeah.
So there was no outs.
No, there were 2 outs.
So that wasn't when they got the double play.
The double play was in the next inning.
The next inning. Okay, my bad.
So the first batter.
He came out with 2 outs. So it was the 8th inning when.
Yep.
Okay, and then you knew it was over.
You did. And even when they hit the home run, I knew it was over in the 9th inning. But I was thinking to myself, maybe we just throw in another guy, just to make yourself feel more comfortable about it. But I'm so happy they didn't have to.
Oh, yeah.
They've used 5 pitchers.
He came back, got a big strikeout that the blue mustache guy didn't agree with.
That was kind of cool. Okay, that was kind of a good look.
Yeah.
Now, we do got to talk about. Look, we're gonna break into all of this stuff. We got to talk about Jace for a moment because immediately when I saw him get the third base, I'm like, oh bleep! Like hamstring injuries. You think you're good, and a lot of times you're not. Where I feel much better about it was watching him move in the dugout after he had gone back for some treatment and came back. I guess they whatever, they bandaged it up, whatever they do. They wrapped it, and he comes out, and he's moving a little bit, because when I saw him move initially, he was very ginger, right?
Yeah.
Moving gingerly. And I feel a little better about it, but it is a hamstring injury, and you can't rush back from that, man.
And as someone who has had hamstring injuries before, and believe me, my hamstring is nothing like Chase's. It's my experience that a hamstring, though, you can walk around fine.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when you start to run,
accelerate, right?
Yeah, it just jumps up and feels like you get stabbed in the back of the leg. So it's really going to be. I can be very hopeful. Did you ever see the movie North Dallas 40?
No, but I know it. Burt Reynolds, right?
No.
What
You're thinking of semi.
Who's in North Dallas?
Nick
40?
Nolte. Mac Davis. Anyway, there's a player that takes a shot for a hamstring. I don't know if that's a real thing.
I don't think that works.
If you do that for the, but I'm like, could it be? No. But you know what?
Go ahead.
What gives me a certain amount of, I don't know if confidence, why I feel that they can still do this even without their two best bats. If it comes to that,
60 home runs.
If it comes to that,
nearly 60.
It seems like, and people be sure to correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, that's fine. But it seems like in the last 10 games or so, it's been the bottom of the order that has carried this team offensively.
When's the last time they hit a home run?
Or 4 through 9 has been, it seems like to me, has been more productive.
When's the last time this team hit a home run?
Maybe Caden Kent with the grand slam.
Right. It's been a minute. It's been a couple games.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful one, by the way. But it's been a couple of games. And here's the thing. We talked about it yesterday.
No, it was Hayden's shot after.
Hayden's shot. There you go. But here's the thing. They're winning different ways. And the buttons that Schloss is pressing, like we said yesterday, turned out to be the right buttons.
Yeah. Look, he knows his team.
He does.
You know, and the things that you think, oh gosh, what's he thinking? Well, he just knows his team, and he knows what to do. Like I said yesterday, he appears to be so far ahead in his thinking. Like the whole thing with Prager. I'm going to wait and let him start the second game because I think
I like the matchup.
This other kid, I like the matchup, and Lampkin, and all he does is go out and throw 3 brilliant innings. He's taking him out. What are you taking him out? He's brilliant. Well, Chris Cortez comes in and gives you 4 or 5, whatever it was, strong inning, 4, and you're like, oh, okay, now Hash back. Okay, great. And then, now I got Prager for game 2, and then he goes out and damn near throws a no-hitter. So,
hey, how about the defensive play from Jackson Appel on the bunt?
Oh yeah, that was
guy on third. Like
what a
freaking play!
It was outstanding. Another time, Grahovec had a really good play at third where I think his leadoff hitter one inning, and he made a diving stop and got up, threw the guy out. So yeah, except for 2 plays, I thought the defense was phenomenal. They got a big double play. You know what? They're doing what you have to do.
They're in the winner's bracket, bro.
Yeah.
You got to beat them twice.
You got to beat them twice.
You got to win 3 in a row.
Somebody has to win 3 in a row to get in past
on both sides.
Right.
On both sides, right? Let's hear from Jim Schlossnagle yesterday. Opening statement, because I don't know. I'll just let him talk. Jim?
That was a great ball game. Tough conditions to hit. And I thought both pitchers, Ryan was obviously outstanding. I thought Mason was outstanding for them. We just happened to get, Appel's big hit to kind of break it open a little bit, get us in scoring position. And then both Hayden and Caden did an awesome job of staying on the baseball and using the whole field to hit and keeping it low. Just really, really tough night to hit. Really good night to pitch. It doesn't take anything away from either pitcher, but I thought it was a very well-played game by both teams. So we're excited to win, and I'm sure Kentucky will do great tomorrow.
So who do we want to see? It doesn't matter because the way A&M is playing, line them up, let's go. But is there a matchup that you would prefer? I guarantee you if I ask Bronny that, he's not going to tell me there's a matchup he prefers. But I'm asking the people listening, the people talking, the fans. 979-693-1150. Do you have a preference?
I feel like, and listen, once again, I'm no expert on this by any means, but I feel like I would rather face Florida.
Okay.
I feel like that I could walk Cags every time up, and I just got a feeling that against Kentucky, I feel like I'm holding my breath every batter.
Okay.
And I just don't think that that Florida lineup is. I think it's easier to. It strikes me that it's easier to navigate through that Florida lineup.
I think I prefer Kentucky, which makes me crazy because Kentucky is one of the best teams in the country, but the Florida lineup scares me. Okay. So there's that. I think I prefer Kentucky, but I like us. I mean, they're going to have to use some pitchers, right? So how fresh are they going to be?
I wonder what the team batting averages are, because I think Florida strikes me as a team that has more power.
Yes.
But Kentucky, and I may be dead wrong on all this. I don't cover it all the time. Kentucky strikes me as a team that hits the ball better.
Well, and they'll manufacture runs.
Yeah.
They're very good at manufacturing
runs.
And
then I don't really, I got to be honest, I couldn't tell you whose pitching stacks up to look better. I just hope it's an 18-inning game tonight.
Ranking-wise, you'd rather play Florida. They barely got into the tournament, right? Kentucky's one of the best teams in the country. Matchup-wise, with what's left, I don't know how I feel. I'll have to ask one of the baseball experts about that. But I think I'm leaning towards Kentucky. But we'll see what Braunie and Zane say later on in the show and Billy Liucci says. All right, so answer the question. What do you think? Would you rather Florida? Would you rather Kentucky? 979-693-1150. This is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. Let's go around the room and say hi to the people out there. Cade is in the back. Cade Beckham, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, y'all. How are y'all doing?
I'm well, buddy. What's going on?
Well, on that point, I think that I would rather play. I'm with you, David. I think I'd rather play Kentucky. I think
Kentucky has a 284 team batting average. Florida has a 270 team batting average. So,
okay,
see, that's interesting. But I also think that just Florida's lineup has a little bit more. It has a little bit more juice, and I think that plays to their advantage if they have to beat us twice.
Florida 133
having
home
that
runs,
juice
Kentucky,
plays to your
88.
advantage if you have to beat somebody twice.
Right. OB?
I'm looking. Stats don't tell you. ERA, Kentucky has a 4.93 team ERA. Florida, according to these SEC stats I'm looking at, 6.09 team ERA.
Okay. Look, the way they're playing, I just don't want any more injuries, obviously. And I want to finish it tomorrow. Move on, get as healthy as you can, and hopefully show Tennessee what's up.
I want to see, like I said today, an 18-inning game where both teams just have to use up all their pitching just to stay alive.
All right, let's go to the hotline. Steve is on there, wants to talk a little bit about A&M baseball. Steve, welcome to TexAgs.
Hey, man, thanks. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Okay, in terms of who we'd rather face, Kentucky, hands down.
Okay.
Why is that?
Because the Florida, I'm just getting back from the games. I have to go back to work today. But that Florida fan base is just insufferable.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I learned that when in my previous job. In 2006, I was well aware of Kentucky fans. I'm sorry, Florida fans are so bad that Alabama fans complain about them.
Yeah. How was it though for you, Steve?
And I got one thing before I go. I just wanted to mention to you the best T-shirt I saw at the whole 3 days we were there. It was a Kentucky guy in a royal blue T-shirt. It had an outline of the state of Kentucky. And above that, in big letters, it said baseball school.
I like that.
I saw that.
That's great.
I saw that.
That's very cool. Steve, how was the environment for you?
Oh, man. It's just a great atmosphere. Most of the fan base are really nice people. We ended up, first night we were there, we were at the Aggies Hotel at the Hilton. A lot of family was there. And, it was a lot of fun. Jay's Laviolette's girlfriend and their family was there. We spent a lot of time talking with them, and it was just it was rain. It was a thunderstorm. The night the thunderstorms blew through, and we didn't start till 10 o'clock, and it was just a lot of fun. But I recommend it to anybody. That's a totally different atmosphere than anything you'll ever be around. But they've got flags out front. I don't know if y'all have seen them, but they've got all 8 teams have their flags flying, and when you lose, your flag goes to half mast.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's
when
cool.
When you're out of the tournament.
Hey, Steve, man, thanks so much for calling us, buddy.
Uber. All right.
No, go ahead. You had a comment about Cooper? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Ubers are terrible. Oh my gosh, it was just it's just the night that it rained when we were over at 2 a.m. took us an hour to get an Uber. So,
super expensive.
And the hotels are tough too. But once they start knocking teams out, it gets a little bit better. It thins out a little bit, But I'm looking at going back. My significant other of 25 years is a big time Tennessee ball. So I don't know what it's going to be like, but it may be expensive.
All right, man. You safe travels to you. We'll talk to you at some other point. All right.
All right. See you guys.
See you, man. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate Steve's thoughts there. If you went to Omaha and you're driving back, I want to hear from you. 979-693-1150. If you watch from home and you want to give us some feedback, let us know. 979-693-1150. Let's quickly go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We're very late for a break. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Carson Stein is there. Carson, what up, buddy?
Morning, y'all. How are y'all doing?
Good.
I mean, after a win yesterday?
Yeah.
I know. I can't complain. I just wanted to say, we got your question, David's got a lot of text messages coming in about who would you rather face.
Okay.
It's like 90-10 Kentucky to Florida.
Really?
Interesting.
We've got about 10 text messages, and 9 of them say
But
Kentucky.
isn't that interesting? Kentucky's one of the top 5 teams in
I think
the
Kentucky's
country.
better.
They are.
But are they the better matchup?
I think it's recency bias.
Maybe. I mean, which game was more of a nail biter?
Well, the Florida game.
Yep.
But which game did? I mean, the pitching was great. But which game did A&M start their ace?
The Kentucky game. Yeah. All right, Carson, get one more in.
We got a text from Marcel Reed's dad, actually.
Hey, Mr. Reed.
Talking about the hamstring shot. It's called a PRP shot for hamstring work, platelet replacement shot.
Yep.
It works to help speed up a hamstring recovery quickly. So OB kind of knows his stuff over there, I guess.
Yeah, I know my hamstrings, I guess.
PRP, TRT, OB knows it all.
OPP. You think that's going to be the bumper music? I don't think so.
Do you actually know what that stands for? Don't say it.
Yeah, I do.
All right. Do you know what that stands for?
I can't say I do.
He doesn't even know what the song. He doesn't know about the song.
We might hear it on the other side of the
sure,
break.
I'm
We
sure
might.
won't.
We might. Aggie headquarters in Omaha. Are you headed to Omaha to see Aggie baseball beat the hell out of everyone at the College World Series? Well, they've been doing it. Where have you been? Go hang out with our folks there at the Association of Former Students as they team up with the 12th Man Foundation to invite you to a pregame gathering at Aggie headquarters located at DJ's Dugout Sports Bar in downtown Omaha. The event begins 3 hours before each Aggie game, wraps up 30 minutes prior to the first pitch, giving you plenty of time for the 12-minute walk to the stadium. Enjoy good bull with fellow Aggies and free registration that includes snacks, complimentary drink tickets to kick off the game day festivities. Make sure you head over to the Aggie headquarters in Omaha to get ready to watch Aggie baseball. For more information and to register, visit tx.ag/OmahaHQ. That is tx.ag/OmahaHQ. I was going to post that on the internet yesterday, but I was like, I don't know if OB's ready for that smoke.
I've become, I'll admit it, I have become the Lee Corso of TexAgs radio, just the old guy that says stupid things and people laugh at instead of with.
Like this, horse noise.
That wasn't a very good one.
Cow.
See, and then, so not so fast, my friend.
What does a Red Raider sound like?
We lost again.
What does a Florida Gator sound like?
Gosh,
That's a hard one.
I miss Tim Tebow.
Yeah, they've been saying that for a long time. Yeah, Florida. The guy was saying about their insufferable fans. It's true. And when I said that about Alabama fans complaining about them, it's true because I was on a flight back to Nashville from Gainesville, and there was Alabama fans. Yep. They were complaining to me about Florida fans.
So here's, by the way, it's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Where are we?
We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio.
Thank you. We call this hour
the Go Hour.
Presented by
CC Creations.
Thank you. So I asked the question earlier, which matchup would you prefer if you were picking, right? Florida or Kentucky? OB initially says he would prefer the Florida matchup. Mm-hmm. I thought Kentucky. A lot of people have responded. Here's Ag Engineering 12. OB is hung up on the stats, not factoring that UF has been way hotter in the postseason.
Well, isn't everybody hot in the postseason? Yeah. That's why they're there?
Yeah. He also
Who's the cold team that goes to the College World Series?
There isn't one. Calvin says UF is playing better than UK in recent weeks, playing better now.
Okay.
So that's a couple of thoughts out there. 979-693-1150. Let's go to Carson Stein there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We got some text messages to also give us some perspective. Carson?
Yeah, so we got one text in from Jerry. He says, hey, guys, it'd be crazy to think that everyone would rather play Kentucky than Florida. Kentucky's the better team. We pitched our best pitcher against them. Florida, we've proven that we can beat them on a regular basis.
2-2 against Florida.
Yeah, I don't know about regular basis.
But you beat them twice. I mean, you lost them twice at their place. And from what I understand, their team is really suited for their ballpark. I think you hit a lot of home runs out of their ballpark.
From a macro perspective, you look at the entire body of work, Kentucky's way better. And you are right. Everybody is hot right now. Florida's lineup worries me. And I know you can walk Jack Caglione. I get that. But just overall, I think they're a little bit more offensive. Okay. And who you're going to pitch against them, to me, matters. I think this defense, the A&M defense, is solid, right? And Kentucky is going to be able to move some guys around. But I just think the matchup, again, that's just, maybe it is recency bias, which is my thing to say on the air.
Look, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying it strikes me that I think Kentucky's the better baseball team. But
whoever we beat is the team I want to play. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, whoever loses is the team I want to play, but that's not who you're going to play.
All right, let's go to the hotline right now. We've got another call. Brad wants to talk a little bit about the matchups. Brad, welcome to TexAgs Radio.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Kind of want y'all's opinion on it. But, the team is now 7-0 going into postseason. It just seems like whatever obstacle has been thrown in the way, that just keep pushing through it. And the way Schlossnagle is coaching with complete confidence, complete decisiveness, and complete aggression. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it just seems like it's a team of destiny right now. And I kind of wanted your thoughts on it. Been around, Aggie sports a whole life, and so, but it just seems like there's no stopping this train right now.
I bet you, though.
See what your guys thought.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate you always calling in. 979-693-1150. I bet you, though, Tennessee fans are thinking the same thing. We're a team of destiny. Look what we're doing. This year we were the number one team, and we've proven to get into the winner's bracket. Like, I'm sure every team feels that way. We are so close to our team, and the reason it feels that way is because some of the buttons that Schloss has pushed, where I'm like, I wonder why. Oh, that's why. Like, when you do things like that, and you make a catch at the warning track above the line, and Jay Slavla, and you have injuries, and you still win. And Ryan Prager is freaking perfect for 6 2/3, right? Like, those are the reasons it feels like a team of destiny.
Yeah, I don't know because I'll be honest. I'm going to talk about basketball just briefly here. When A&M back in 2016 came from 12 down with 33 seconds left.
Yep.
I thought this is a team of destiny.
And then they lost.
And then they got blown out.
Right.
So I'm not good at identifying the teams of destiny.
But after a championship season, you look back at certain moments you point at. After. During, we're starting to identify, look, these are some data points that are showing up that like are going to tell us this story.
I'll say what gives me, again, some confidence, if that's the right word, some optimism, hope maybe, is that this is obviously a tough, strong-minded team.
Yep.
Because to lose Braden Montgomery in the first inning? Or early if it wasn't the first inning against Oregon, man, talk about what could have been just a gut punch and like, oh, God, how are we going to respond to this? To lose Shane Sadeo, and you go, how are we going to respond to this? Then to be without Lavalette and needing a catch at the wall or needing a big double play after an error. The things that when they had the error before Caden Kent's double play, you're like, okay, here it comes. All right, you've lost one of your best players, and now they've got a rally going, and then you just had a big error. Oh my gosh, is this where it breaks? And then you get a big play like that. So you see the resiliency and just tough-mindedness of this team. They're strong-willed. But is that going to be enough if you have to go forward with a lineup without so much of the season, the top of the order has carried you for much of the season. Now, Grahovec's slumping. You may not have Lavalette, and you definitely don't have Braden Montgomery. But then the counterpoint to that, the retort, is look what the guys at the bottom, what Camarillo has done. Kent has come in done. Schott has come in.
Jackson
Appel, Burton.
Yep.
And those guys, maybe they're not getting the big home run, but boy, they're putting together. Last night, A&M had 3 hits in a row and didn't score, but they're getting hits. So
as I said yesterday, OP, other teams that I have loved,
Lampkin comes in.
If they lose one of their top 3 players, I think it's over. Right? Typically, if the Astros lost Jose Altuve in the playoffs versus any of the teams that they played on their 2 World Series teams, I would think they can't get it done. Maybe they can, and they won the World Series, by the way, obviously. But like with this particular team, I hate it, but I still believe. And maybe that's because we've followed them and we see the chemistry, we see the laughs, we see the love that they share for each other, and we see the wins.
If they pull this off and somehow win it, especially if you don't get Lavalette back, but even if you do, because no baseball expert in college by any means, but I think you have to. Some historian has to go back and say, has there ever been a better coaching, for lack of a better word, performance than what Schott said, the moves he's made? I mean, if you're able to pull this off after losing your second best pitcher, starting pitcher, and your 2 best bats, over a week, just over a week, and still able to pull it off, who does that?
Yep.
But he's again, so far he's had the Midas touch. Every move it seems like he's made has just been golden.
All right, let's hit a break here. We will come back with some more baseball thoughts or performance of the week. I guess we'll look at the last 2 games when we do that. If you want to be a part of the conversation, 979-693-1150 is your number. Right now we're talking Heritage Films. That's Chance McClain's company. They make documentary films for your families. They make it for your parents. They make it for your family business, your family ranch. Whatever family activity you guys do together, that can be an eye in the sky. And it doesn't have to be just family things, right? It can be a group of buddies that get together every week and have this routine that they do, golfing, hunting, camping, whatever it may be. They'll tell that story in a 2-hour documentary form that can be shared generation after generation. It is fantastic. You also have the Yearflix as an option, which is a 20-minute video, more reserved for the kids and the family, kind of like a benchmark video. And it's quick, it's easy, it's fun. The kids love doing it. It's a benchmark video, so like, your 8th grade year, you do a 20-minute video, then you follow up maybe as a senior in high school, follow it up when you get your Aggie ring, follow it up when you are engaged. So there's so many different storylines that you can do and just see the growth with your kids. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. I'm David Nuño, and Richard Zane is in Omaha, and he joins us now live. Richard, good morning, buddy. I don't hear you, which is unfortunate.
This time, though, decided not to lounge whatever buffoonery I pulled last yesterday morning was called out, and legend of what I had done had been spread all over the Midwest and the greater Omaha area by Mr. Billy Liucci. But I still have the blanket, very comfortable here in Omaha, Nebraska.
What buffoonery did I miss?
You didn't see him on the casting couch yesterday?
No.
Oh.
No, I lounged. So we've got like a sectional couch in the living room here.
Oh.
And Brawny did his radio segment from this spot.
Oh.
And instead of me moving to the spot, we just rotated the camera, and I stayed laying down the entire time. So it was like I was in like the Kate Winslet pose from Titanic.
That's right.
But nobody was drawing me like any French girls.
Hmm.
Buffoonery.
It was.
Buffoonery is exactly right. Richard, hey, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the audience. Is there a better matchup for A&M, or does it even matter?
I mean, I don't think it truly matters. I think you've seen both teams, right? You get the luxury of letting your pitching rest, whereas they have to play games on 3 straight days, right? Whoever wins, whether that be Kentucky or Florida. You've seen both teams, and you're probably a lot more comfortable and familiar with Florida, having played them in the regular season, than you are with Kentucky. But if I had to guess, I think Florida's the more talented team, and will likely come out of the losers bracket game today and be playing them tomorrow night. And at this point, I don't think it's about matchups. I think it's just about playing your brand of baseball. And obviously A&M has shown that their best baseball is capable of beating anybody and everybody. And that's why they're 2-0 here in the Men's College World Series for the first time ever.
Richard, obviously, you don't know this. And as we speak right now, Schlossnagle may not even know this, but you cover him. So give us your best guess on how he's going to juggle the lineup if Jace can't go.
Well, obviously that's a big if, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last night post game, Coach Schlossnagle did say they're in wait and see mode, and they've got they had about 48 hours from the time the game ended or from the time the injury sustained to work through it. They'll get some more information on him. We'll probably talk to Coach Schlossnagle and maybe a player or two later today. They'll probably have a press conference at some point this afternoon before practicing. I am optimistic he's going to be able to play, and maybe that's a little bit hopeful. But if he's not, right, I think the way you saw it, at least defensively, is going to be the way it's going to have to be with your 2 freshmen as the corner outfielders. And as far as the lineup goes, man, I think you probably put Appel at 2, Grahovic at 3, and you figure out somebody to put in the leadoff spot. Maybe that's Caden Kent or Caden Sorrell. I think both of those guys have been going pretty well of late and having pretty solid ABs. And I mean, Caden Kent, what a postseason he's had beyond the grand slam against Oregon. He has a 2-run single yesterday. He's been much better than I anticipated, and the Aggies have really needed it. So it would be very interesting to see the way they line him up on Wednesday if Jace Lavallette's unable to go. But fingers crossed we don't have to find out the answer to that, OB.
Richard, to me, I'm encouraged because 2 things. The way I saw him score, he looked bad, right? Like, uh-oh. And then I see him a few minutes later in the dugout walking around. And not that tells you the whole story, but I felt more encouraged. And the fact that they were confident enough to let him bat once again makes me feel like maybe he was feeling good in the moment, but maybe it's not as bad as I initially thought when he crossed home.
Oh, I mean, we thought it was initially extremely bad up in the press box. I mean, I was sitting right next to Ryan Brauninger, and he's got his headphones on because it's a loud press box up there, and he likes to listen to music during games when he's not on the call and stuff like that. And he's like immediately hitting me. He's like hitting me. He's pointing down in the dugout, He's like, Jace is out. He's taking his glove from him. They're making Gavin do it. So, I mean, I didn't see him really pull up, right? I didn't see him get hurt in the moment. I just watched him stretch it out. And then obviously once they got into the dugout and they took him back into the clubhouse and the training room, that's when some real panic started up in the press box and I'm sure down in the dugout. But yeah, if they let him bat, I think I'm kind of surprised they did, to be honest with you. Bronny and I were having a conversation about it the entire time, saying, I'd be shocked if he continued in the game, but the inning just kept going, right? Jace was the leadoff guy in the inning. He let it off with a walk, and then he was the 10th guy to hit. At that point, they had 2 men on with 2 outs. I think they liked the idea of Jace being able to walk to first base if he were to hit the ball through the infield for an RBI single and then go grab the pinch runner. I think they liked Jace's bat over somebody off the bench, whether that be Ryan Targach or ultimately Jack Bell, who came in defensively in the next half inning.
Let me jump in there, OB. So Hayden Schott's also banged up. So there's not a lot of options for DH, right? Like, I mean, it's either one or the other. If help me out here. How would they handle that if he was maybe able to DH?
I mean, that's another question. You would have to have Hayden Schott play the field, right? If Jace Lavalette is going to DH, you have to have Hayden Schott play the field. Where does he play? Do you stick him in left field? I don't think he can move well enough to play in that spacious outfield. Do you put him at first base? Teddy Burton's been fantastic and saved plenty of errors over there. I don't think you do that either. I don't think Hayden Schott's going to play any of the other infield positions. If Jace Levelet's only available to DH, then I think you obviously have to put his bat in the lineup over Hayden's. But
Hayden's hotter now.
I would hate that. I would absolutely hate that because of how good Hayden Schott has been.
Yeah, Hayden's hot. Quite
like 8
frankly,
RBIs.
hotter now.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic. He's been fantastic.
You
But
take
at
the
the same
hot
time,
bat out,
Jace is
even-
always the bigger threat and the bigger weapon.
I don't. Yeah, it's a conundrum.
Hey, how about Josh Stewart yesterday, man? Like we haven't even talked about Prager, so we probably need to start with Prager. Let's start with Prager because we haven't talked pitching yet. The brilliant performance that we got from Ryan Prager, and then we'll work our way to Josh Stewart at the end.
I'll throw you a little bit of a curveball, maybe a little Ryan Prager curveball, and I'll actually start with Stewart. What he gave you, those 7 outs, that's fantastic, right? He helps you save the bullpen. You don't have to use Ashenbeck. You don't have to use Cortez to win a game against a number 2 national seed. That was fantastic. To get out of that spot in the 7th where he throws 3 fastballs, the scouting report tells you it's going to be sweeper heavy. That was fantastic. Josh Stewart, I said it post-game in our rapid reaction. Nobody got to listen to it because the audio was messed up. But
I was looking for it.
One mistake away from the program's 12th shutout of the year, and it would have been 2 dudes in Omaha. That would have been fantastic. Josh Stewart deserves a massive tip of the cap. And then Ryan Prager, man. Olin, David, you know this. That's been the guy I've been following all year long. He's been so much fun to follow. For me being a kid that was left-handed and terrible at baseball, but also a Jewish left-hander, the thought is always Sandy Koufax, right? That's always my guy. And then Ryan Prager, for what he's gone through, right? He missed the entire year last year with Tommy John surgery, and he's on the biggest stage again, and he's got 6 no-hit innings. The only traffic against him was 2 errors, a hit batter, and a walk going into the 7th. And he did it, he wasn't racking up the strikeout numbers, right? Like, we've seen him be better than he was last night, but we've never seen him be more important than he was last night. He was fantastic against Hagen Smith back in mid-May, where he outlasted the Arkansas ace. And, they do it in such different ways. Hagen Smith throws high 90s fastball, whereas Ryan Prager's low 90s, duck and dart and curveball, slider, change. And he gets guys out. He induces weak content, but he also gets strikeouts. He didn't get the strikeout last night. He only had 4 of them. And he gave up 2 free passes, which is something that he doesn't typically do either. But he's so good. He's so calm. He's so collected. And he gave the Aggies more than what anybody was hoping for. And it was super, super cool to see him get the ovation that he got from the 12th man in Omaha last night. Standing ovation, resounding round of applause. It was awesome to see. And then I got to speak to his parents last night post-game, and they were just so proud of their son, as you would imagine. And Ryan's mom, Corey, was in tears throughout the game. I had getting texts from people in the stands. She was walking up and down the aisles. She was just so emotional and so happy and just so thankful. And the word that the entire Prager family's used, and it's in my recap last night, is grateful. They're just grateful to be here. And I ended the story. I think Aggies are extremely grateful for that kind of performance and extremely grateful for the season Ryan Prager has had.
Richard, in fact, I believe Prager's first words and last words of that first question they asked him were grateful. He opened up his sentence with grateful and ended it with grateful. So great thinking there by you. Let's hit a break here, man. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. Sound good?
Yeah, it's perfect. Hey, Olin.
Yo.
I'm glad to see you back in the studio. I didn't get to see you yesterday when I was lounging on the couch over here.
That was Meshuggah.
Oh man, I'm sure you used some Yiddish word, but there's kind of like an echo, so I didn't truly hear
that
it.
was to do that. That was just Meshuggah.
Oy vey, oy vey.
Thanks, Richard. Great stuff, man. Appreciate you. All right, let's hit a break here. Schulte Roofing Time, an award-winning roofing company that provides industrial, commercial, residential services to Belleville, Brenham, Bryan, College Station, Conroe, Montgomery, Navasota, San Antonio, the Woodlands, and the surrounding counties. Schulte Roofing is the home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee, the industry's absolute best roofing system, roof installation, warranty, and 100% satisfaction guarantee or your money back. They've been around since 1994, and they're committed to excellence. That's why they've been doing it for so long. They want to be the very best at what they do, and they've grown into a top 100 roofing company. You can call them up at 1-800-4ROOF. That number again is 1-800-4ROOF, or go to their website, schulteroofing.com. That is schulteroofing.com. Little Oasis for you, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, we got like 2 minutes left.
All right.
We didn't get to do our performance of the week, so let's knock it out. I'm going to let you have the first nominee.
The guy I've been so impressed with, Caden Kent, because I know, where you're probably going next. But deliver a big 2-run single that gave you some breathing room, and then turned that big double play.
He's been huge. He's been postseason-esque player of the team. He's been that good. Let's continue on. How about Ryan Brauninger yesterday?
How about it?
6 2/3, didn't give up a hit until that point right there. 4 strikeouts. Everything was ground outs or pop outs, right? Everything. It was just over and over and over again. And also considering, and I'm glad that Richard put this in his write-up, like his season ended in Omaha a couple years ago. He has Tommy John. He has a rough outing, his most recent outing before this Kentucky game, and he has his most brilliant performance with the national stage watching.
A tough-minded team we talked about, and there's another example.
We got his soundbite. I don't know if Kate has got it from yesterday, talking about how grateful he was that I kind of talked about a moment ago. Here's Ryan Brauninger yesterday.
Yeah, just super grateful to be back. I mean, last time we were here, there's left with a little sour taste in my mouth, and to be able to come back out with this group of guys and do what we did, I think it was just a test to who this team is. We've shown that we can do it in a variety of different ways, and to be honest, we just enjoy being around each other, and the more days we can be around each other, we're truly being grateful for them.
Grateful it is. Let me throw in another one. We just talked about him a moment ago. Hayden shot 3 of 5, 2 RBIs. In his last 5 games, he's hitting 600 with 10 RBIs, something like that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Can't take that guy out of the lineup.
No, he's been phenomenal. OB, it was a fun hour, man.
It was a fast one.
A fast hour, and we did all baseball.
It was like how fast? Well, as we should.
As we should. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
When we come back, Ryan Brauninger is going to join us for about a half hour. After that, Boomer White. After that, Thomas Hart. After that, Billy Liucci. All that and your text messages and phone calls. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Am I going to hit the mute button?
All right, we are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2, baseball. Let's go straight to the hotline. Ryan Brauninger is joining us here on TexAgs Radio. Bronny, good morning, buddy. How you been?
Good morning, Nuño. How are y'all?
Well, I'll tell you what. Yesterday's baseball game I found to be very enjoyable. I don't always love pitchers' duels. Yesterday's was a fun game to watch. Obviously, the 6th inning had a lot to do with that. Just some thoughts here 12 hours after what happened last night.
Yeah, obviously one of the more masterful pitching performances, probably the most masterful and best pitching performance in Texas A&M baseball history up until last night. That honor had belonged to Nathan Detmer from a couple of years ago in his start against Notre Dame. And Ryan Brauninger, who was open about the bad taste that he had in his mouth from the last time the Aggies were here and how he pitched, took the ball in a winner's bracket scenario and led his team to a historic victory for the program. And the Aggies are now 1 win away from playing for it all. And so it's just, you talk, we've been in there so many times, David, throughout the course of the year, talking about this team. And we talked about the talent on this team going all the way back to January in the preseason. And, how you're going to go out there and you're going to be able to look, they're going to look different. They're going to play different just because they're so talented. And then you get all the way to Omaha and the most unfortunate stretch of injuries that you could possibly think of occurs. And it's not the talent that has shown through. It's the guts. It's the togetherness. It's the toughness. It's the mental fortitude that those qualities that the A&M fan base just, really holds so dear. And to me now, David, and I actually, because of how much of we have talked about this throughout the course of the year, is this now the best Texas A&M baseball team of all time?
Well, it's interesting because we had that discussion early on in the year, and they were trending in that direction, right? And then they had a couple mishaps towards the end of SEC play. But this team right now, the way they're playing, they have not lost a game in the postseason. They are in the Final Four for the second time in 3 years. And the way they're winning games, Ronnie, that's the part that has been the most impressive to me. Is they can beat you with an excellent pitching performance. Hayden Schott doing something, Caden Kent doing something. Like, it's different defensively. Jackson Appel, gutsy performance. They're beating you multiple ways.
Yeah, and again, and you look at, like, what does best mean? And Jim Schlossnagle has sat in that chair next to you, and we tried to go over it. Like, what does best team mean? Does that mean most successful team? Does that mean best overall talent? There's a lot of different definitions for best, but I think when you combine what A&M has accomplished on the field with not only the top-end talent on the roster, but now what we're seeing is the depth. It's truly remarkable, man. And we knew throughout the course of the spring that we were watching something special. But you never know with postseason baseball because it's such a lottery, and you can have a bad day and a pair of bad days and your season's over. Think about like where A&M was in that regional against Texas as it got late in those innings, and how much different this postseason could have looked if you would have lost to the Longhorns. I mean, those extra innings when it's tied, if Evan Ostenbeck makes one mistake, this whole thing looks different, way different. And so for them to battle through it in those scenarios and then get themselves to Omaha and now have 2 wins under their belt here, I don't know how you look at this thing any other way than, first of all, being overly impressed with the roster that the coaching staff has put together, the player development on said roster, and then the just overall qualities of a team that you'd want in any sport, right? And any of your favorite teams, if they displayed all of the qualities that this Aggie baseball team has, they would go down as some of your favorite sports teams ever. And so I think, the A&M fan base is certainly taking these guys in from an early time this season. I think that this baseball program is just in an incredible spot, and I think it's here to stay. And I think that now people have realized what you can do at this place. And obviously there's another level for them to go. And the kids and the coaches will tell you we ain't won anything yet. And I like that attitude. And they're right. They are right. But I think you also have to put in perspective what's been done with what's still to come, very much in the full picture right in front of your face.
Talking to Ryan Brauninger, who's live in Omaha. Bronny, I want to get into, from a baseball coach's mind, right, the performance from Ryan Brauninger yesterday. Like, what made him so magical? What was it about that performance last night? I mean, everything was either a grounder or a pop-out. I mean, he only had 4 strikeouts.
Yeah, it was consistently being able to be competitive in any count with any pitch. And it doesn't matter how hard you throw when you do that. Hitting's really hard to do. And if you cannot eliminate pitches as a hitter, if he has no feel for the breaking ball, or he's got no feel for the changeup, or his fastball command is not where he wants it, that makes hitting easier, a lot easier with Ryan Brauninger. And, Max Wiener said he didn't think he had his best stuff in terms of the analytics of what they were seeing on the charts. But, I mean, he just competitive and fills up the strike zone with 3 pitches. He's super cerebral. His feel for the game is off the charts. He was the perfect matchup for Kentucky because they want to grind out at bats, and he's not going to get frustrated by foul balls or extended at bats. He's not going to be worried, or he's not going to get sped up with bunts or the running game. Like, he was just the perfect matchup for that Kentucky team. And I think that's why you saw A&M start Justin Lampkin and then go to Chris Cortez against Florida, because as good as Cortez is, I don't think he's as polished as holding the running game or fielding his position off the mound as Brauninger is. And so, all these coaching moves that the staff has made is paying off brilliantly so far. And you'd have to say that, with Brauninger, I thought in that last inning, he had some balls that were hit hard, and he had the liner right at Camarillo, and I was like, okay, now with the analytics of the stuff when it started weren't as sharp as he typically is, and now you add on a little bit of fatigue. I thought he was kind of getting to the end of his rope. Even if he would have gotten out of that 7th inning, I was like, okay, they're starting to have better swings. The contact quality is getting better. You saw it on some foul balls. But regardless, man, 6 2/3 of no-hit baseball in a winner's bracket game in Omaha. We're going to talk about that performance for a long, long time.
So when can we see him again? Can he pitch?
It'll be a full week.
A full week?
They've got to get to the championship series before he'd start a game again.
Okay. All right. So that's not really a full week, though, is it? Full week?
It'd be 6 days.
Okay.
But so, I mean, it's much he's on his recovery routine right now. He's getting ready for a start probably on Saturday.
Okay. Well, which would be game 1 of a championship series. How about overall the fact that this bullpen has not been taxed, right? I mean, 5 guys have pitched overall. You're in a great position, not only in the winner's bracket, but the fact that Josh Stewart could finish out that game yesterday to me was huge.
Oh, it was massive. It was absolutely massive. And they had Evan Aschenbach up and tossing at times. They had Brad Rudis. I think Brad Rudis probably got hot at one point, but Josh Stewart just kept making pitch after pitch. And then, that moment when he came in the 7th inning, and there's 2 men on, there's 2 outs. And what happens in baseball, especially college baseball, is when a reliever runs in from the bullpen, the offense will gather around the hitting coach and go over scouting reports. Hey, these are his percentages. This is where he likes to throw these pitches in these percentages. And you're trying to get as much intel as possible. So, David, what do you think Josh Stewart's scouting report says? He's going to throw you what?
Heat?
No, he's going to throw you sliders.
Sliders, sorry.
That's all he does.
Yeah.
Right? He throws
But
sweepers.
yesterday he was mixing it up.
Right. That's what I'm saying is he is predominantly probably over 70% sweepers. And yesterday in that moment when he comes in with 2 men on and 2 out, he fires 3 fastballs right by that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire time of the at-bat, that hitter for Kentucky's going, okay, the slider's coming, and it never came. And so, that is brilliant first pitch execution by Stewart. And secondly, understanding what the scouting report says and completely flipping it in a big moment. So now if Josh Stewart comes back in, whoever they play, they're going to have his last outing as part of their data now. Well, for most of the year, he's been 70% plus sweepers. But in his last outing, he threw a lot more fastballs. So, how do you discern what he's going to be the next time he comes out if you're an opposing offense? So I just thought it was called brilliantly. It was executed brilliantly. And, like I tweeted last night, if Max Weiner is not the National Assistant Coach of the Year, they need to quit giving the dadgum thing out. I mean, how do you even put into words what the turnaround we've seen in 365 days from this pitching staff?
So yesterday we talked about it. His approach, right? The way he communicates with these pitchers. That's to me, it's not the most impressive part, but like he just walks in there with a smile every time, right? And he's like, "Hey man, I don't even know what he's saying to him, but you can just tell there's a connection with his athletes that is hard to that's so genuine, right? Like yesterday on the broadcast, you probably didn't see it. They showed when he and Prager went to go get a burger or a hot dog the other day as they were waiting for the rainstorm to get through. It just, his connection with those players is just on a different level, and then he can teach them too. It's one thing to connect with these guys, another thing to teach.
Yeah, and he did that in the fall when he got here. It was super intentional for him to construct those relationships that way, and because he knew he had to come in and build trust with these kids. And in order for you to build trust, you got to spend time with them. And you got to make them believe that you're their number one fan. And regardless of how things go, I'm in this dogfight with you. And that was the first thing that Max instilled with those pitchers. And then they started talking about dominate the zone mentality. Then they get into pitch shapes and all the other really cool baseball stuff that he's super good at. But number one was the intent with which he built those relationships. And I talked to him in September, October about that. And I was asking him hey, who are some of the guys that are staying out this fall? And he's like, man, to be honest with you, I can't even give you that right now because I'm just so bought in on learning these kids and how they operate and how their minds work that he was, the baseball at that point was so secondary. And it's crazy to think about that when you come in, you kind of want to implement your baseball styles first, but he wanted to implement his way of communicating first and his open door policy with the pitchers and getting to know them on a micro level to the point where that when I go out there to talk to Ryan Prager, I need to say these types of things. And that may be different than what you go out there and say to Brad Rudis. And it may be different than what you say to Chris Cortez. And so you have to learn. I always say this, David, the best coaches in the world that I've ever been around, they speak so many different languages because you have to be able to explain yourself in a million different ways just in case that one extra way can get your point across and make the player's brain go, I got it. You explain it that way, now I got it. And you better be able to explain it, like I said, a million ways. And Max is as good of a communicator as I can. A young coach, you listen to him talk. I don't know if you heard his post-game little video he did with NCAA baseball last night where they asked him about
we got it ready.
That mound meeting.
You want to hear it? We got it.
Yeah, I want to hear it again. It's awesome.
Yeah, let's hear it. Cade, why don't you run that for us, please?
I saw y'all giggling a lot.
Yeah.
What were y'all talking about?
Oh, I was dog cussing. No, I'm kidding. No, we were just laughing. I think that's the essence of what makes Ryan a great competitor, to your earlier question. When you take yourself too seriously in anything in life, and especially in competition, it's pretty tough to be sustainable. And Ryan was able to laugh and have humility and just be himself. So that's what I saw, and that's what we were doing there. Is he laughs as a 12-year-old playing baseball, so he laughs as a 21-year-old playing baseball, and we celebrate that.
I mean, how perceptive is that?
Yep.
It's so good, man.
And
that
genuine,
is so,
man.
so good.
And look, I've only talked to him 2 times. You've talked to him 100 times. But what you see in that clip, that's the guy you meet in the lobby at TexAgs. That's the guy you talk to at practice all the time.
Yeah, and it's when you get to know Max, it's almost like, is this human being real? Like, is he really this smart, this well-spoken, and also this nice of a human being?
Yes.
And his fiance is the same way. It's like you meet these people like, man, these are like different special people in terms of how they interact with both the players and just the folks around them. And yeah, it's every year that they keep this coaching staff together, I'm talking about Nolan, Max, Mike, Will Fox, Chuck Box. It's a win, man, because all of these guys have head coach written in their future.
And the fact that they're different personalities too, the way Nolan goes about his business, it works great with Schloss and everybody, but it's different than the way Michael Early, the way Max. They all have their different personalities that works for this group.
Yeah, and it's worked for this program, right? And, yeah, you'd have to give Schloss a lot of credit for assembling the staff, obviously. But, yeah, you watch those guys grow. We obviously have talked a lot about Nolan and what he's meant to the program. And I mean, how much of the unseen work that he's done in terms of the recruiting phone calls is coming to the fruition right now? And all those late nights running the roads, going to travel ball tournaments, Colin Hayden Schott, Colin Jackson Appel, who were both 22 years old at the time, and then Colin Gavin Grahovic when he was 16, 17 years old. And nobody knew that those things were happening when they were, and now it's all playing out on a national stage. So much so to the point that when you lose Shane Sadeo, Braden Montgomery, and Jace Lavalette, you still win games in the postseason. That's what Nolan Cain has done to this roster. Like, Caden Kent would be starting or would have been starting for the majority of college baseball teams across the country for the entire year. There's no question about it. And because of how this roster was constructed, he just hasn't gotten an everyday opportunity. But when his time has come, everybody's going, man, this kid's super good. Yeah, Caden Kent's a professional player, man. So is Jack Bell. And I know he got thrown in. Can you imagine Jack Bell last night? And you're sitting there and you're in Omaha, and all of a sudden you're going into the game in the 6th inning with a lead in a winner's bracket game. And what was at the time, and it's not going to be once A&M plays again, but when A&M is on the field, David, do you realize that's the most important game in program history? And Jack Bell gets thrown into it, and of course he's going to be a little bit sped up. He's hardly played it all year. And he makes the error, and I'm sure he is his mind has got to be racing a million miles an hour. But what does this team do? They picked him up right after the error. Ryan Prager makes a big pitch, ground ball at Caden Kent. He steps on the bag, throws it across, and you could just see the relief. Jack Bell's body language changed after that. You know, but that's the essence of a team. Jack Bell's a great player. He will be a great player. But he was sped up. There was a lot going on. He went into the game to replace Jace Lavalette. And that's a lot on a freshman who's played very sparingly throughout the course of the year. And you looked up in the 7th inning, and the Aggie defense, listen to this, man. The Aggie defense has Gavin Grahovic in left field. He hasn't done that since summer ball in high school. Okay? Travis Chestnut, who is a career infielder, I don't care how fast he is, he's been a career infielder. He's played some outfield, is in center field. Caden Sorrell, who hasn't played right field since Arlington, those games against USC and Arizona State, he goes to right. When's the last time Caden Kent played third? Who knows? Jack Bell is at second. And it's like, they win. They won the game. It's crazy, man. It is crazy.
Brian, let's hit a break. I want to get your thoughts on what we could see pitching-wise tomorrow and just go a little bit deeper. We haven't even talked about Jace. There's been so many talking points. We got to talk about Jace as well. And, we'll get into some outfield depth because I know they can't take that many more injuries, man. They're getting thin, so we'll talk about that on the other side. Right now, your car wash tradition with the friendliest staff and the personal touch is Aggie Land Express Car Wash, and they are the first green car wash. They recycle 100% of their water. 2 great locations in College Station. You got the original on William D. Fitch behind Shipley's in South College Station, and the new location, 2528 Texas Avenue South in College Station, across from the Planet Fitness. And both Aggieland Express Car Washes have all the services that you want. Varying wash options, free vacuums, towels for your use, unlimited monthly membership packages starting as low as $19.95 per month. But at the brand new location, the one there in Texas Avenue, on Texas Avenue South, they have the full service wash in town, the newest one. Choose from the full service option. The Aggieland Express team will take care of your cleaning, your drying, your vacuuming. Armor All interior, all under a completely covered area so that your car stays cool while they make it sparkle and shine. And for a limited time, they're inviting you to try the full service option for half price. It is normally $40, but you'll get it for $20 off if you tell them that David Nuño from TexAgs sent you. And here's a giveaway. We're going to give one free one away. Who wants to try that full service wash at the new location car wash? I'm giving one away right now. That's a $40 value, 979-693-1150. The first caller will get themselves a new or free $40 value, free car wash from Aggieland Express Car Wash at the new location, Texas Avenue South in College Station. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Ryan Brauninger is joining us live from Omaha as we get ready for tomorrow's game against either Florida or Kentucky. Bronny, I know you have a baseball mind, coaches. So when I ask you questions, you'll be thinking it from a coach's perspective, not as an analyst or excuse me, not as a fan. So I ask you this knowing that we don't have a for sure answer, but what are some options pitching-wise for tomorrow? It'll depend on the matchup, obviously, but just kind of as of today, what would you think?
Well, I would think that if it's Florida, you're not going to run Justin Lampkin out there again. And you may not even do it if it's Kentucky because they just saw something similar in Ryan Brauninger, right? The problem is like, where else do you go? And Brad Rudis, who hasn't pitched, and he's been good in that opener role, is certainly an option. And behind him, you would have a fully loaded Chris Cortez. But again, that would be the third time. If it's Florida, that would be the third time they've seen Cortez, and it would also end up being the third time that they would see Evan Aschenbeck. I don't think that that's going to deter you from using those guys ever, but it is something to note that you may look at doing some things differently with those two if they come into the game, just to throw Florida off the scent of the scouting report. But I'm still maintain that somebody that we haven't talked about yet. And we talked about Brad, and I think everybody trusts Brad. And Brad's pitched in Omaha, and Brad's gotten outs in Omaha. So I think everybody trusts Brad. And if that's who they go with, I think that'll be the most. What does Jim Schlossnagle say? Like, he judges the trust he has in a pitcher by what does his heart rate look like when they're out there. I think Brad is a pretty trustworthy kid. He's a pretty low heart rate. He's going to throw it over the plate, and he's going to make you put the ball in play. And much like Ryan Brauninger last week against Oregon, he wasn't great. What did Ryan Brauninger do 1 week after that? He turned it around. And you would trust Brad because of his experience, his kind of his guile, his feel for the game, that he would be able to give you something like that. I'm not saying he's going to go 6 2/3 of no-hit ball, but with what he can do as an opener, I think he could give you the best version of that. And, so I think Brad is certainly an option. Is Tanner Jones an option? He's kind of gotten beaten up the last couple of times he's been on the mound, but we also know that the best version of Tanner can beat the elite of the SEC. We've seen him do it. Zane Badmiev has been an option. I think not as a starter, but, if you got to get into a scenario where you need somebody to come in and throw strikes and get you out of a tight spot. So, and Caden Wilson. Caden Wilson has been up and throwing a couple of times, and the staff really trust him, and he's coming off that bases-loaded no-out scenario against Oregon where he didn't allow a run. And his stuff is as good as anybody. It's just, command and calming his heart rate down when he goes to the mound and being comfortable and confident when he's out there in any scenario. But the overall stuff will play. So, yeah, I think you have like you said, you have a fully loaded bullpen. You will never, regardless of what scouting reports say or how many times, a team may have seen one of your best arms, like if the game's on the line, you're not going to leave Evan Aschenbeck in the bullpen just because Florida's seen him twice this year, or Chris Cortez. Like, you dance with the one that brought you, right? I mean, those are your horses, and this is the biggest race. So you're gonna trot your horses out there in the biggest race as much as you can. And I said a little bit maybe yesterday that Max Wiener had a meeting with the pitchers and said, "Look, as long as you're not injured, I really don't care how you feel. This is Omaha. Like, if your arm's attached and it doesn't hurt when you throw, like, you're available." So I think that's how they're going to attack this thing.
Talking to Ryan Brauninger, who's live in Omaha. Bronny, we talk about the A&M perspective, but both Kentucky and Florida are going to be in a different situation because they have to go today, and those arms are going to be taxed, and that bullpen is going to be taxed. So when they do get to A&M, regardless of who pitches for A&M, they're also on I don't know if borrowed time's the right word, but tired arms.
Yeah, and Florida's down to one of their last good starter is going today in Pierce Capola. And what hurt Florida is that Jack Caglione only gave him an inning. And I don't know if you're watching that game, his velocity was way down, like to the point where they're going to probably have to get him. I mean, he's going to have to go through all the medicals for the MLB draft stuff. But I don't think he pitches at the next level anyway. But, like, it was concerning. It was like 86 to 88, 89 miles an hour. This is a guy that was 96 to 100 earlier this year. So maybe there's something going on with him. It certainly hasn't affected him at the plate at all. But, yeah, Florida's really stretched thin. I actually think Kentucky's in a much better spot than Florida on the pitching staff wise. But, for Kentucky, they'll be trying to get their game one starter ready as fast as possible to give them something. And that's Trey Poozer. That's their ace. He threw a lot the other day. But again, this is postseason baseball. There is no tomorrow now for Kentucky. And so I would imagine, are going to try to fast track him just to have him ready to see what he can give them maybe today or tomorrow. Probably more so tomorrow than today. But yeah, everybody's bullpen, when you get into this scenario, it's like going through the loser's bracket of a regional. Like, you're going to get tested. And the depth of your club, the depth of your pitching staff is going to get tested. So I actually think that Florida has the better depth in terms of talent. Kentucky has the better depth in terms of the numbers, if that makes any sense. Like, I think in terms of pro prospects, all of Florida's guys are really good, but they're young, they're inexperienced. This is a big stage. Kentucky doesn't have the quality of stuff, but they've got older guys who have been through it. And so, it's kind of a, how do you balance that? If the talented kid comes out and has a great day, it's going to be tough for Kentucky. But more consistently, it's an easier bet to bet on the Kentucky pitchers because they're more experienced.
Bronny, you may have talked me out of my thought. I thought the matchup for Kentucky would have been better, but the way you talked about that Florida pitching staff makes me wonder if that's maybe the better matchup.
What we're talking about Florida, it's the same thing we've said about Florida all year, man. Like, the talent is never a question for Florida, ever. It's just the experience. All these arms that they've thrown all year, I think like 11 of the 18 arms they've used are freshmen. So, at some point that hurt them during the regular season. I think that's why they were so up and down. Now, a lot of those kids have matured, but it's just less of a safe bet, right? You don't know. Like, just do it from the A&M perspective. Compare Weston Moss and Caden Wilson, even though their stuff is electric. Compare them to Evan Aschenbach and Brad Rudis, whose stuff isn't that good, but which ones do you trust more?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So there's a big difference there.
Hey, Jace, this was my initial thoughts. I saw him riding third. I'm like, oh, that's not good. He scores, and I'm like, oh, dude, the way he's running, he might be done. Then he goes in the back. They wrap him up. He comes back. I see him moving in the dugout, and I'm a little encouraged. Maybe he's not running, so it's not the same thing. And the fact that they kept him out there for another at-bat made me encouraged. What is your take on the whole situation?
Yeah, I think Jace is obviously going to try to play if he can. You just never know with hamstrings, and we don't know the severity of it. I don't know. I don't have any inside information on what Jace is, how he's feeling today, how he felt. And I do know that after the game last night, he was smiling and laughing and hugging people. I know he was signing autographs whenever the team came out and went to the bus and was in good spirits. So, just knowing Jace and how much he loves to play, I would think that his attitude being like that upbeat is a good sign, because if they went and told him, like, hey, man, this is a bad deal and you're out, it would have been pretty devastating for him. So we'll see. I really trust the A&M training staff. I've heard nothing but just phenomenal things about that team of people. And if Jace can go, Jace is going to go. What it gets really interesting, though, David, is if he can't play in the outfield, then you've got to make a decision at DH between Jace, one of your all-time home run leaders, and Hayden Schott, who has been red hot. But what do you do? It's crazy.
Can they play Schott anywhere in the field, you think?
Schott's on one leg.
Yeah, I know.
He is peg leg man. So, no, you can't put him in the outfield. You'd be better off putting a 60% Jace with two legs out there than a Schott with one leg.
Whew. Bronny, I know that Schloss will probably speak a little bit later today. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. I'll have Hal do recruiting country, but we'll get some baseball from you here tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, Bronny. Appreciate you. Great work as always. Ryan Brauninger live there in Omaha. When we come back, the good baseball vibes continue. You know who we got. We've got Boomer White. I don't know if you knew that, but I just told you. Boomer White joining us next here on TexAgs Radio. But before that, let's talk ground shuttle. I'm actually using ground shuttle this weekend. So I am heading out to Seattle. Long story. You know the story. It's the typical Nuño stuff. And early flight on Saturday, late flight coming back, and I need help getting back, right? I don't want to pay for parking, so we're going to take ground shuttle. They're going to take care of us. They're going to get us right there to George Bush Intercontinental Airport in luxury, in style, and they're going to do all the driving and all the thinking and all that madness will be taken care of through ground shuttle. You can catch up on work. You can catch up on emails. You can read a book. You can, and the driver's going to do it all for you, drop you off, and nobody wants to park at George Bush. I'm telling you, Olin, myself, and the crew, we've done it many times, and every time we go, it's worse. The traffic is bad. Sometimes the lots don't have enough spots. You got to park in Egypt, and it's just the whole thing. Let them take care of it. It's great, and they'll take care of you. Ground shuttle runs 9 shuttles every day, every hour and a half, and 5 shuttle times on the weekends. They're excellent for business travelers and commuters. They can take you with their charter service anywhere in Texas. They're local, and they will not book anything that they can't guarantee. The phone number is 855-303-4415. That number is 855-4415, or go to groundshuttle.com. Let them do the driving. All baseball here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline. Boomer White's here to break it all down with us. Boomer, good morning, buddy. How you been?
Man, I'm really good after last night. That was a fun one to watch, and left you going to bed on a good note for sure.
Heck yeah, you're there, right?
I got back late last night. I'm in the office right now.
Oh, wow. That quick of a turnaround. Look at you, man. So how was the environment? Just take me through it.
Man, it was outstanding. I was saying, maybe 30 minutes before game time, it was 50% capacity, maybe less. And then by top of the second inning, you couldn't see an empty seat in the house. Not only Kentucky A&M fans, both, but just baseball fans in general. That's the greatest trip in the world. I did it as a kid, playing little select tournaments out there, and you time it up with Omaha, and you just see kids running around in their baseball uniforms that just got back from a game, and families, and it was an outstanding game. It was an outstanding environment. Tons of Aggies, a lot of Wildcats, but that's exactly what you expect in a winner's bracket game in Omaha.
Boomer, look, some people may discount this as not that big of a deal. I think it's a huge deal, and I want your comments on it because you've been in some awesome locker rooms in the past. When I watch this team, you can tell they love each other, right? Like Braden Montgomery's vibe, Hayden Schott, like they all know Jace. This is a team that really the chemistry in the locker room, in the dugout, I think you can feel it on the field.
Yeah. I would say that I've seen that from the get-go, from the beginning of the season, and even heard about it before the season started from the coaching staff. And I think that's coaches talk about how much they love teams all the time, but there's an aura that this team has and that these coaches speak of, that this team has carried with them from the beginning of fall ball. And it's an amazing group of guys with good heads on their shoulders, and they got their priorities in line. They love each other, and I think when you line everything up like that, along with the immense talent they have, then you're going to have that genuine love that comes out in the heat of battle, in the dugout, when guys go down, when guys aren't playing well. And, I think that right now you're seeing that come to the surface maybe more than we have all year.
All right, let's do the reintroduction of Ryan Brauninger because people may have forgotten how good he is, but yesterday, in the biggest game of his career, with the world watching, that guy delivers a near no-no, and he was unhittable. They made contact, but that's about it.
Yeah, he was outstanding. He was throwing 3 pitches anywhere he wanted, whenever he wanted, and when you can do that, I don't care who you are at the plate, it's going to be very difficult to hit a pitcher like that. And I think that this is the Ryan Brauninger we saw, like you mentioned, that we were introduced to at the beginning of the season, and we have seen quite frequently all season. But what have you done for me lately? His last outing wasn't great. So it's nice to kind of recalibrate and understand what kind of arm he is, even if he has a rough outing or two. Like he's kind of been doing this all year. So it was outstanding. He was dominant. He had tempo out there. Being at the game, you felt like he was in total control. He was doing exactly what he wanted out there, and I think that just at the very end, he just may have run out of gas a little when he got to around that 90 pitch count. But, man, that is all you can ask for and more on a game when you thought it was going to take 2 or 3 runs at most to win it. You needed every bit that we got out of Ryan Brauninger.
Yeah, we're talking here to Boomer White on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So I am looking at the schedule today. It looks like the Florida State North Carolina game is the first game at 1 o'clock. Kentucky, Florida, they're at 6. And the reason I bring that up to you, Boomer, is I'm looking at the weather, and it looks like it's supposed to rain most of the afternoon, pushing back all these games potentially. And look, I'm not wishing for anybody's – I just want A&M to win. But if that's an advantage to A&M, let's go, right?
Yeah, you take what you can get. And when you plan on really only playing 2 games a day in Omaha, unlike Hoover where you can get 3 games in, it makes it a little more challenging when you have these delays pop up. How late are you going to start? How early are you going to start the next day? Whatever that may be. So I would say that not only does the volatile schedule play an advantage to A&M because they're not having to deal with it, but also it seems to just be more and more rest for the Aggies. So, you'll take it, and I don't think this is anything that the Aggies don't want right now.
Yeah, we're talking to Boomer White here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Let's talk about the bullpen. 5 guys have been used, as healthy and as fresh as you can be entering the 3rd game here in Omaha. And considering the team you play, whoever it is, Florida, Kentucky, they have to use a lot more bullets before they get to you.
Yeah, you couldn't be sitting prettier if you're the Aggie bullpen right now. I mean, not going to Evan Aschenbeck, I think, was great. Josh Stewart was outstanding. I think that you're going to look up and you're going to have Aschenbeck and Cortez on about 4 days of rest, and you're going to have pretty much a refreshed Justin Lampkin who can go. You're going to have everyone at your arsenal, and I think that's the immense benefit of winning these first 2 games, not only in Omaha, but it's the same way it works in a regional, right? This is just a regional. So you go win those first 2 games, and when someone has to come beat you twice, it's like, wow. Like, they either have to play their best game 2 times in a row, or, you really got to do something wrong to not come out of this. So right now, if you would have told Coach Schlossnagle that he would be here on Tuesday morning, man, I think that he would have taken it every single time, and he's got the best chance he could possibly ask for to not only get to the finals, but get there with a team that's ready to go win it.
Boomer, you know Schloss really well. How has he evolved as a head coach, and the buttons that he keeps pushing, the right buttons, I should say, this playoff, this College World Series? Like, it seems like he'll do something, and I'll that's interesting. He's going to go with Justin Lampkin here. He's going to wait for Prager game. And everything so far that he has pushed has worked out the way he envisioned it.
I don't know if I'm in a position to answer how he's evolved, because I've just never really gotten into the weeds of his coaching decisions and why he does things. And I think he's always pushed and pulled right buttons and levers in these situations, or as good as you can ask for. But, man, I think it's really coming to the surface when you look at this Aggie team right now. Shane Sadeo goes down. Brady Montgomery goes down. We're maybe looking at, really hope not, but potential other injuries. And so how are you putting yourself in a position not just to go to Omaha and have a fun time, but how are you putting yourself and your team in a position to go win? And he's been forced to make some changes and take some risks. And I think he's shown that he's not afraid to do that. And he showed up to win a national championship and not just look good out there. So I think that he's done outstanding to this point. I really have liked how he leans on his assistant. He's not afraid to consult and talk with a bunch of other guys in the dugout and kind of just gauge the temperature of the decision that's about to be made. And so far it's looked great, and I think that he's going to need to keep it up, because this is not the Aggie team that we were looking at a month and a half ago, who was beating everyone's brains in with everyone healthy. So you're going to have to make some really important coaching decisions here.
Yeah, and one of those decisions is going to be on Jace Lavalette and his hamstring situation. Have you ever had a hamstring issue that's cost you some time? I'm sure you've had some kind of strain at some point.
Yeah, I have. I've had a quad and a hamstring issue, and I would say that both of them were high hamstring, high quad, which means that's up kind of more towards the top of the leg. It looked like Jace may have grabbed behind his knee. I don't know the extent of his injury, so I don't. If y'all know more than I do, forgive me. But it can be extremely scary if something pops. However, I have felt tweaks behind the knee on a hamstring that feels very uncomfortable, but doesn't feel like it could hinder me from playing. It's a lesser extent of a hamstring injury. And so the fact that he grabbed his bat and took another at bat and got on the on-deck circle told me that it wasn't, going to put him out for a long time, and he thought he could push through it. So my hope is that this is just a rest, a rehab, give me some time, and I'll be able to kind of continue to work through this and not maybe that high hamstring that can totally, put you out for weeks.
How about Hayden Schott? He's been hot. I mean, a guy that is playing on one leg, injured, but finding ways to contribute in major ways.
Oh, I mean, Hayden Schott, he just finds barrels and he hits line drives. And that was, when I played, that was kind of my philosophy. I found that you got a lot of hits if you just hit the ball hard and you kept it out of the air. And, man, it seems like every ball he hits is 100 miles an hour off the bat, and it can go anywhere from all around the infield, third, all around the first. And I think when you do that, you give yourself a great chance to contribute, to get on base, to get RBIs, which he's done. But he's doing it hurt too, and so I love it. It's and I think that gives the rest. As you have guys that need to step up in clutch situations, and boys, he done it every time he swings at a pitch. It seems like it's over the plate. It comes off his bat hard, and man, that's really all you can ask from a hitter.
Boomer, last thing for you. Do you have a matchup that you prefer for A&M here tomorrow? Is there one that you look at like, I like our matchups against Florida or Kentucky?
Yeah, I don't know enough about the arms that have been used or that what they'll have on deck to really speak to a pitching matchup that I think who's worse or better positioned facing the Aggies. But I'll say that Florida's played the Aggies extremely well all 4 games this year. I think it's just been 4, and I think that they may feel more comfortable facing Texas A&M than Kentucky has because we just took it to the Wildcats. So. I'd say, yesterday seemed like the Aggies were in control for a lot of that game. I'd like to see that again, but like you said, and like we touched on in the beginning of the segment, I mean, these teams that are going to have to come up through a loser's bracket win are just going to be in a much worse position than we are. So I think that if A&M plays their game and has their arms ready and just plays sound baseball, I think that they're in position to win no matter who they face.
Appreciate you, Boomerang. Great work as always, buddy. Thank you.
Well, thanks, David. You have a good one.
You too. Boomer White there was in Omaha yesterday. He's already back at work. He's a warrior. All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with a short final segment in the 10 o'clock hour. Tom Hart after that. Billy Liucci after that. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You can find them on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. They have great deals on their website. You go to their website, you look at the vehicles, you're like, I want this one. I kind of like this one. This price point's a little bit better for me. And then you make out the drive to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You test drive. I'm telling you the story how it usually plays out. Maybe yours is a little similar, a little different. You go, you'll test drive, you'll talk to the sales staff, and you'll say, okay, this is the car I want. What's the trade-in value on my car? And they're going to give you a great trade-in value. And then fast forward a couple years later, you need some service done, or a couple months later, and they have complimentary pickup and delivery for their service customers. It's the place to go when you're looking for a vehicle, whatever situation you're in. It's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They can be found on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in here on the program. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can call or text us 979-693-1150. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein is there manning the text messages. Let's hear some, shall we?
We got one from RJ Englert. Says, Chad has been playing baseball for a long time. I know he has a position to play in the field. He's really good at it, or above average. So I don't see the problem why he's playing a position during the next game.
Okay.
Here's one that I thought you'd like, David.
I'm just trying to think, okay, what else do we have?
What about Tanner Jones starting in the next game or two?
So back to what Bronny had brought up. Look, he hasn't pitched in a bit, and it hasn't been great. But this is what I think. If Schloss thinks he's the right matchup, he'll be the right matchup. And I know that's such a cop-out answer, but I know there were several of you who were questioning, Justin Lampkin, why is he doing that? And I even had a moment why is he doing that? But he's pushing the right buttons. He knows the staff, and he knows what they can do against whatever the matchup is. If I'm assuming they're going to see how this game plays out tonight, if it actually happens or when it happens, and he'll decide based on the matchup itself. And Tanner Jones could certainly be an option. I do think it's going to be more like what Bronny said, maybe Brad Rudis for a couple innings to start it off and then piecemeal it. But you're in the driver's seat. Just end it. End it to get more rest, guys. All right, we'll hit a break. When we come back, Tom Hart. Tom Hart will be joining us next on TexAgs Radio. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I believe Tom Hart is already on the hotline. Am I wrong about that? Tom, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Does my connection sound funky to you?
No. I didn't see.
Okay,
usually I see you beforehand, and I didn't see you, so I was like, is Tom there? How was Atlanta, man? Obviously, I know that you live there, but like you were doing the Braves work this week, right?
Yeah. I was out there last night. I got to swing by the clubhouse tonight and say hi to AJ Minter. He's on the IL right now, a little banged up, but I didn't get a chance to go down there last night. So, it's fun to see. Like, it's fun for me to do big league games anyway, but it's also fun to see guys who came through the college ranks, having success and getting out there and playing at this level. So, it's really cool. I mean, like, we're sitting here watching Laviolette, and obviously Braden's not playing right now, but Caglione and all these dudes playing in Omaha, like, they're really close to being on this even larger stage of Major League Baseball in just a couple of years.
Just a year ago was Paul Skeens, and he's over there dominating. Was he 4-0? He's just the first to do 5 things, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he just shoved last night, and he decided he wasn't a good enough pitcher at LSU, being the number 1 overall pick. So he decided to add a new pitch to his repertoire. I don't know how that works, but he's now throwing a thing that he calls a splinker, which is like a split sinker. And these guys amaze me, right? I mean, elite pitchers go, I was throwing in the outfield with my buddy, and I decided to change my grip, and I picked up a new pitch. Like, it just, I guess it's like an artist going, I got tired of working with acrylics, and so I decided to become a sculptor, and now I'm doing sculpting work. It's amazing to me.
Well, there's different types of elite pitching, right? You've got the strikeout artist, and then you got a guy like Ryan Brauninger that's like, you're going to pop out, you're going to roll out, and I'm going to just control you for 6 2/3.
I love the quotes after the game where it's less about being a pitcher and more about being a competitor. Like, and that to me really plays out on nights where, and he wasn't sharp, his previous outing. And so sometimes you just don't have it at all, and you can't get it figured out, and you just got to hit the reset button. But on the nights that you have your less than perfect stuff, and you can get out there and battle and compete, then you can get through a game. And that's really when you learn who you are and how to battle. And everybody plays well, throws well when they have their best stuff, and they have feel, and they got velo, and they get ahead in the count. So to me, that's what it speaks to, is being more of a competitor than a pitcher, is being able to survive on those days and nights where you don't have your absolute best stuff. So, I mean, he's such a weapon, and I think that the position that A&M is in right now, being on the winner's side of it, and getting a chance to sit back and watch other teams battle and burn their pitching and burn their bullpen and get down to guys that they have to, and maybe they haven't even relied on during the course of the season or a postseason play, and having to rely on those guys. So despite everything that the Aggies have been through from an injury standpoint, this is as good as you can hope for right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing when it comes to this team, where they lose Braden Montgomery. Now you got Jace banged up. Hopefully he's not out for too long. You lose Shane Sadeo. And I've said it for a couple days on this show. Obviously I want those guys out there. You're much better with them. But I still have a lot of confidence in this team that they can still win it all. Part of it's because of the position they're in. Part of it's because they just push the right buttons, Tom.
What is the latest on Jace? Like, do you think he misses one game and then they're able to get him back out there, or, get him back out there for the weekend? Like, what's best case scenario in your mind?
There is no latest, and knowing Schloss the way I do, he ain't going to give us much later on today. He may tell us a little bit, like, hey, it's not as bad as we thought, or something to that effect. If I'm guessing, he's playing until he can't, right? Like, it's the pitching staff has been told it's Omaha. They didn't say this, but screw your feelings. Let's get out there and play until you can't. And until Jace can't play, I think he'll be out there. How limited he'll be. That's the thing about a hamstring, though. You know this, like, you feel fine, and then you accelerate at the wrong moment, and it goes right back to where it was.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game, and it's a dance that you do, trying to, as an athlete, like, he doesn't make that catch the other night if he's trying to nurse it or ease into it. Like, you just got to throw everything at the wall and go up there and and bring the thing back in. And I wonder, and I think this will be an interesting conversation probably after the season for Schloss and after this Omaha trip, is if he were a draftable junior, is it handled differently, right? Are agents involved? Are advisors involved? Are parents involved? Is it, for as much as we want it all to be, hey, lay it all on the line, there's also a lot of money on the line for these guys who are going to be first rounders. So there's a benefit there to him being where he is within his career and his timeline, where you can push it a little bit and you can say, hey man, let's go get that ring. And I think that's something they'll never forget.
The country's being they're getting to see firsthand this awesome vibe that Schloss has developed here, these relationships. But you've been there behind the scenes. You've seen this team for the last couple seasons, and especially this year. When you see this team, the Braden Montgomery smiles, the Max Wiener, the way he goes about it, the Hayden Schott making everybody laugh and also delivering, just tell me some thoughts that you've seen behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Schott is the perfect clubhouse guy because there's so many emotions, and you see it from teams that get eliminated, and they go out there and they grab a Gatorade cup and they fill it full of dirt and grass, and they say, I'm never going to forget this, but it's heartbreaking because it's the end of a road. So there is very real stress on every one of those teams and every one of those coaches that's playing for a national championship in Omaha, because one trip up and you could be done. So how do you get through that? Like, how do you balance the intensity of trying to win every day and trying to win a national championship with the realization that, oh man, like every pitch matters. If I let my focus down for 1 second, or if I'm so tied up in my emotions that it gets in the way of winning, that could be a detriment to me as an individual and as our team. You got a guy like Schott that's just like running around talking Teletubbies and being a California dude and keeping everybody loose. That is incredibly valuable. And by the way, those guys and those personalities should not be taken or assumed to be any less competitive than the others. To me, when I run into those kind of guys, and you might play golf with them, you might play pickup hoops with them, you might have a coworker where everything seems to come easy, it still matters. But because they're so talented that they don't have to put the same kind of stress and focus into it, where it can be just all consuming. So I think that's incredibly valuable. And I go back to what we've been talking about all season with this team. When you're a team that gets on base, you can win games where you're not pounding out 12 hits and hitting 4 home runs. And that is incredibly important in that ballpark. And we've seen it already, depending on which way the wind is blowing. So we have not seen a home run since Caden Kent's home run. This team has not lost in the NCAA tournament. And if I were to say that to you, like there's been 3 games since the home run, and look at the way they're playing, I don't know if anybody would have believed it. No, I think that because the answer is, well, look how the pitching staff has picked up the slack, right? And look how the bullpen has picked up the slack. And you've got an incredible closer, but that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy when he's coming out there in the 8th inning, and then he's got to work his way around a guy like Jack Caglione or Ashton Wilson, guys for that Florida team who are playing magnificent baseball right now, and you're trying to do it at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, it's probably less stressful for the players because they're used to playing early morning, late night games, whether it be, summer ball, travel ball, tournaments, Lake Point, all this stuff, or Hoover. But I think it stands out to fans, right? Because they're like, whoa, this is different. This is weird. I should be in bed right now, but I'm up watching baseball. But I think that's all part of winning games and being as close to a professional as you can is dealing with the elements. So kudos to the pitching staff for getting that done. Yeah, no doubt. And then there's been the next man up mentality that we always hear in sports, but we're seeing it in real time happen. Caden Kent, he had the grand slam that everybody talks about, but he just continues to deliver. He delivered last night. He makes a defensive play. He gets the RBIs. Like, he is a guy that's an example of just be patient. Your time's coming. And when your time comes, you better be ready. Well, you're absolutely right, but I would add something to it. He is also the example of a great coaching staff who can identify talent, and you bring in talent which adds to your depth, and you can coach a guy throughout the course of the season and say, hey, be ready, right? You're one ankle away from getting in there and being ready to play. And at the same time, he's not a guy that doesn't deserve to be on the field, right? He's not some guy who's just a throw-in add-on to the roster. He's a guy that was recruited heavily and obviously has incredible lineage and knows what it's like to compete each and every day. And so you're bringing in a guy that deserves and belongs on the field, deserves to be on the field with these great players. You're not bringing in, a Division II dude and then shuffling everybody around to backfill behind that. You see it happen in the pros all the time, right? I mean, Mookie Betts goes down for the Dodgers, and they fill in with a perfectly capable Miguel Rojas, who has 3 hits in his first game starting at shortstop for Mookie Betts. Like, yeah, Mookie Betts is probably the best player in baseball right now, and you're not going to miss him, just like the A&M situation. But if you have enough pros, if you have real dudes in your program, then you can backfill, and hopefully you don't miss a beat.
Tom, what do you make of this Kentucky-Florida matchup? How do you think that plays out? And at this point, they're all hot. I get it. But is there a matchup that you think is better for A&M?
Yeah, I don't have all the box scores and pitching numbers in front of me. Like Brandon Neely has been incredibly valuable and probably Florida's most valuable pitcher. He is a guy that, like, you'll watch him pitch and you'll go, okay, he's absolutely gassed right now. Not in his velocity or anything, but like he pours sweat and he's got this look of anguish on his face when he gets 30 pitches in. And you go, okay, he probably can't go another inning. And they run him back out and you go, well, that's got to be it. And then they run him back out again. And you're like, this guy is unbelievable. I mean, he's an Iron Man on the mound. I don't know where Florida stands from a pitching depth standpoint right now and what his availability will be. All I know is that when he's on the mound, good things happen. And Florida's also in a position where, and this happened late in the season, and through their super regional play, where they just handed the ball off, and I saw them in the regionals, hand the ball off to a couple freshmen who underperformed during the course of the season, but grew into veterans over the course of 50, 60 games. So I think Florida's got a little bit of depth there. I think if that's a high-scoring game, if the wind's blowing out, if the ball starts flying, it favors Kentucky. They're a team that plays with a ton of emotion, and they play with a lot of momentum when things start going well. And I would assume, once again, without having the box scores in front of me, that Florida, even without Neely, will have some dangerous arms and better arms to throw out there.
Football question for you. It's the first football thought I've had in 2 hours and 13 minutes, but we are less than a month away from SEC Media Days, and I feel like the offseason always feels like, man, it's dragging. And then all of a sudden, it just goes into overdrive, and here we are. It's going to be here before you know it.
You're right, 100%. But by the way, isn't it a great feeling to have, not just as a talk show host, but as a fan, like to be so fully invested in a sport that goes all the way into late June, and you're one of the last teams standing for the entire academic year? Like, that is so much fun to have something to be drawn to and have your attention on through the course of the summer doldrums. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're right around the corner. I have no idea what the season is going to look like, man. It's going to be awesome, though. And I think adding the Longhorns and Sooners to it, it's going to add even another element of drama. I was just having a long conversation about, what Oklahoma looks like with a Sooner alum last night. And I said, are you guys ready for the SEC? And he kind of rolled his eyes. He goes, dude, everybody I talked to in Atlanta asked me the same question. And I go, yeah, I think we're going to field a team. I think we're going to play a schedule. Like, they've been playing football there for 120 years. They're not suddenly going to turn into Vanderbilt. They're going to have their hands full, but they're not going, rolling backwards off a cliff just because they're coming into this league. So I'm excited about it, especially now that we have a better feel for what some of the game times and schedules look like.
Well, this is where I would argue with him, and it's not really an argument. I'll just point out, you've played in Division II football in the Big 12. Sorry, it's not the same thing as the SEC. The year that A&M went 8-4 in the SEC in 2021, I think they may win the Big 12 that year. It's just a different level. When you're second, you better be fully. You better have a 5 stars all across the board and backups too, because that is the thing about the SEC. It's just a grind, and you better be ready. Well,
and I spoke to him about that exact thing last night. we had A&M in the Alamo Bowl a few years ago. One of the first answers that Sark volunteered to us was, when we learned we were going to be leaving the Big 12, we immediately changed our recruiting strategy. Immediately. And he goes, I told my entire staff, listen, offense is fine, and that's going to win us games in the Big 12, but we got to get bigger on both lines. And maybe Oklahoma would have been getting there, right? Maybe Oklahoma would have gotten there, even though Lincoln Riley really doesn't seem to believe in defense anyway, no matter where he is. But maybe they would have been afforded that opportunity to start that train rolling down the line. But when he ran off to USC, it totally changed their time frame, and it totally changed. I don't want to say it turned it into a rebuild, but it's like you go from, we're going to put new hardwoods in, to, wait a second, we also need a new roof, and we need carpet upstairs, a new HVAC unit. Like, man, that's a lot of attention to pull away from what you should have been doing to get ready for this league.
Hey, so I did want to close out with this. I was thinking about Missouri, and I think SEC Mike or Paul Feinbaum or both of them were talking about, like, do you think this year, like, if they have the kind of year that they had last year, and I know you know that program very well, that we'll start talking about Eli and, top coaches kind of vein?
In what terms? In terms of, like, Eli being the next hot coach to jump to another spot?
No. Just being one of the top 5 coaches in the SEC.
Well, yeah, and I think there's 2 ways to look at that, right? I mean, when you're at a school like Missouri, I feel like you have to work a little bit harder from a recruiting standpoint, and because of the resources, to be able to pull in that kind of talent. Now, you have to be a special kind of coach and salesman to pull together the NIL deals and the alums that he's been able to pull together to kind of get everybody moving in the same direction. So in some ways, I believe that coaches at mid-tier programs deserve more credit. In other ways, coaches at elite programs have so much more on their shoulders, right? The expectations are so great. I talked to Aaron Boone one time about how managing the Yankees was similar to being Nick Saban and coaching Alabama. And his answer to me was one he's probably used 1,000 times, and it was, the pinstripes can be heavy. Meaning the pressure of winning when you're managing the New York Yankees or you're the head coach at Alabama is something you deal with 365 days a year. So I can see it both ways in terms of how difficult those jobs can be. You're either, working with less and trying to make it work, or you got a lot, but it weighs heavily on you. But yeah, I mean, listen, if he can pull it off again and be in that scenario where they have a top 10 finish this year means you're in the playoff, right? And you get a berth in the playoff, you're lucky enough to get a home game, and you get that kind of momentum for your program. Who knows what happens and how that can help you as a program and going forward. And I really think that 12-team playoff is going to look more like the NCAA basketball tournament, in that there are going to be some upsets. It may not be the worst team might not win a game, but you're going to have a chance if you're like the 8th seed or the 6th seed, where otherwise you weren't even in a 14 playoff, where you can get something going and you can make some noise.
Tom, great stuff, man. Thanks very much, buddy.
All right, David. See you, bud.
See you, man. Tom Hart there on the hotline, SEC Network and ESPN. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with some thoughts, get to some text messages at 979-693-1150. Baseball is top of mind. It'll be all week long. We'll chit-chat about that. Right now, though, FBS Appliance, their team of experts are the best out there, and they're there to help you find the appliances that make your house a home. And they have all the top brands you can think of, making your life easier with appliances that fit any budget. They've been caring for Texas since 1988, and they've got trusted brands like Bosch with an expert staff and trained installers to guide you through that purchase, because they want to be the very best at what they do. Their customer satisfaction is at the core of everything that they do. They have a team of trained sales professionals who are experts in their field, and their services don't stop at sales. They offer expert installation services carried out by skilled technicians. At FBS Appliance, they're committed to delivering an exceptional experience from start to finish. You can trust them to provide unparalleled service and support every step of the way, because FBS Appliance is your trusted appliance store. Visit any of their 8 showrooms across Texas or find them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That is factorybuilderstores.com is FBS Appliance. All right, we are back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We got an open segment before Billy joins us. If you want to be part of the conversation, what do you think about the Florida matchup? What do you think about the Kentucky matchup? 979-693-1150. You can call us or you can text us. And are you feeling optimistic about Jace? If it wasn't a hamstring or some kind of strain like that or whatever it ends up being, I'd be a lot more optimistic. But I'm telling you, I'm not trying to play doctor on the radio here or head trainer, but like his movement afterwards gave me a little bit of, all right, the fact that he went to bat one more time made me feel better. But, those things are touch and go, obviously. But all the buttons they've pushed so far have been the right buttons, and it'll be very interesting who gets to start tomorrow. If it is Brad Rudis, if it is Tanner Jones, do they go back to Justin Lampkin? Bronny didn't think that they would, at least this quickly, especially if it's Florida, right? Does the matchup, of course it plays a role, right? There's no does it play a role, but how much of a role does it play? And how optimistic are you? Considering they're in the driver's seat, right? And they are just a few days away from, they're a win away and a few days away from competing for the national championship as one of the two best teams in all of college baseball. For months, people were speculating it could be Tennessee versus A&M. Well, right now, both teams are in the right lane to get that done. 979-693-1150. We go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson, what do you have?
I got a text from JB in Canyon saying, one of the biggest sports cliches is the team that takes on the identity of their coach. It couldn't be any more true than this team. This team's tough, honest, gritty, unselfish, grateful, and a winner. So glad that we have Schloss.
I agree, and I would say I'd take that a step further. They don't just take on the personality of their head coach. They take on the personality of the entire coaching staff, right? The head coach in Jim Schlossnagle, he sets the tone, he sets the vibe, right? And he has even said himself during press conferences, like, some of that silly stuff, that's not me, but I allow my team to do it, right? And, if they want to have a good time the way they are, as long as we're getting the job done, go be yourself, right? And you can see it, and we talked about it for a long time with Max Weiner and his interactions with the pitchers and his disposition and the way they respond to that. The way Hayden shot brings some humor and also some seriousness. That guy gets very serious. So you have that side of it. You have Jason, his calm demeanor when he makes plays and goes yard, and Braden Montgomery, who is with them every step of the way on freaking crutches, right? Every step of the way, smiling, being with the team, all a part of it, enjoying every second, not feeling sorry for himself. Obviously, he wants to be playing. He's all a part of it. You have Ryan Prager, who battles back from one of his worst performances to his best performance in the biggest game of his career. And by the way, let's hope it's not the only biggest game of his career. Let's hope he has another opportunity, which would be in the finals of the College World Series, right? So hopefully he has another one of those ready for us all. All right, Carson, what else?
I got one from Ross from east of East Texas. Says, why aren't we talking about Ryan Targach?
Because he hasn't played.
Well, there goes
but look, especially considering how thin the team is, right? Thin roster-wise, don't be surprised if that guy plays a role. Remember when he had the home run and the standing ovation a couple of weeks back? And the response that he got, and Schloss had told him, we talked about it, when they moved him to be the first base coach, Schloss had told him, you're going to play a part in this season. You're going to have some magical moments. And he had it, and now he's going to have another one, right? Like Schloss says, you're going to have more. So don't be surprised, you're right, Ross, that Ryan Targach can be a part of this story. And they're going to need him to be a part of this story, especially how thin they are roster-wise. Carson?
Cody texted in and said, NC State lost because they pitched to CAGs. Florida is not as good as Kentucky outside of CAGs, so I want to play Florida.
Yeah, Florida just scares me because of their talent and how hot they are, but Kentucky's hot too. So there is that. I don't know what I think, guys. Like, I really, and by the way, what do both teams have in common? There's one thing they both have in common. Do you know what that is?
What? What is it?
They both have lost to A&M. Two hot teams coming into it. Lost to A&M. So there is that part of it. Kentucky had not lost at all in the postseason, and other than the SEC tournament, and they lose to A&M. Florida was hot. They lose to A&M. So they both have that. Let's try to get one or two more in.
Mike texted in and said, we want to play the team that has the most used-up pitching staff after today's game.
Well, it feels like as of right now, Florida has the most used-up pitching staff. So if it's them, right? And if it is Florida, even though their lineup scares me, if it is Florida, their pitching staff, like, they're going to have to pitch today. If they were to get fortunate enough to beat you, which I don't think that's going to be the case, but if they were to beat you on Wednesday, how decimated is that pitching staff going to be, right? It's all hands on deck for everybody in this thing, right? But if Jack Haglione's velocity is dropping and everybody's, taxed, their arms are so, overexerted, forget about it, guys. Like, with the A&M roster, with the offensive prowess that this team has, it would play into A&M. I just worry about them because they have that offense. That offense scares me. Kentucky is the better team, though. They've been the better team all season long. And one loss because of one inning. One inning only, guys. And that pitcher, let me see, I had his name. I forgot it for a second. What's the pitcher from their team? Mason Moore, excuse me. He was phenomenal until that inning. And that's the thing that this lineup does, right? You pitch to them long enough, they're going to get to you. Carson, last one.
David in Temple texted, said, I hope they start late today, go 13 innings, play under stress, and finish at 1 a.m. or later. Don't care which one shows up.
Well, if you look at the weather keeps changing, but apparently it's going to rain all day long. So they're going to push that stuff all the way back. That's fine. Whatever plays into our favor. That's all I care about. It is only about A&M. That's it. Nothing else. All right, we're going to hit a break here. When we come back, Billy Liucci will join us. We'll talk to Billy about all things happening there in Omaha. But before that, let's talk Rollo Insurance. I'm sure somebody from Rollo's in Omaha because that's how they roll. They go to all the big Aggie sporting events. Somebody's there enjoying it. They go to everything Aggie related. They love Aggie football. They love Aggie baseball. They love Aggie basketball. They love Aggie volleyball. They love it all, right? But they're the best insurance provider in the area. And when I say the area, that means the world. They're the best. They are an insurance provider that wants to educate you on exactly what you're paying for, but they want to do the shopping for you so you can get all of your insurance goals. So whatever position you're in, if it's kids about to start driving, 15, 16-year-olds about to start driving, if it's, aging, if it's, you buying a new vehicle and you want to go through some options, they are the ones to go to when it comes to finding your insurance. They can write any form of insurance to anybody, and they have, they're here in this great state of Texas with 53 offices, super local on Highway 6, but they're beyond that. You can find them in other states as well. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. Again, that number is 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. It's Rollo Insurance. This song, wasn't this the one on the Aggie Twitter video that came out a couple weeks back, right?
I think it was.
Yeah, I felt like that was just perfect for this team. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We'll continue the baseball dialogue. Call us up, guys, because I think we may have Billy at some point, but if not, we can just keep the vibes going here on TexAgs Radio. 979-693-1150 is the phone number. So let's kind of summarize where we are with things. We've gotten brilliant performances from starting pitchers in the first two games of the College World Series, all while the offense has, been hindered a bit, right? No Braden Montgomery. Jace Lavalette only plays until the sixth inning yesterday, and he did get that extra at-bat, so there was that. But obviously, we're concerned about that. Ryan Brauninger delivers a gem. And I'm going to tell you, you know how you know it's a special season? When every time we come on the air, we talk about this being one of these moments we're going to remember forever, right? If it's the Lampkin performance, the Jace Lavalette catch, the Ryan Brauninger pitching performance, Chris Cortez, these are all moments that go in the story, right? And when we talk about these moments, I remember, I use the Rockets as an example because that was the first championship that I remember living through in '94. And Robert Ory's big threes, and Kenny Smith's big threes, and obviously Olajuwon doing his thing. Or when the Mavs won in 2011, J.J. Barea playing a huge part of that story with Jay Kidd and Dirk Nowitzki. Baseball-wise, Carlos Correa, George Springer going yard in Los Angeles. Some of these moments, sorry, Richard, some of these moments are part of the story. That storybook, that fairy tale, if you will, that you don't even think about, right? And that's what it's happening. You think about it in the moment, but let's see. Sorry, they're calling me back allegedly. Okay, there you go. Billy is ready whenever, guys. I don't know. Anyway, as we were saying a moment ago, this plays a part in the story. Let's go to Carson Stein there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Try to get a text message in as they try to get Billy on the show.
We got one from, doesn't have a name on the number, but he says, Aggies will be away team tomorrow regardless who we play. That would mean that we bat first. He doesn't see a scenario where Schloss lets Jace bat in the top of the first and then pulls him for defense. That way they get at least one at-bat out of him.
Look, let's just worry about Jace when we hear from Schloss. Let's go to the hotline. Billy Liucci is there with us, double dipping at AT&T, helping out with phone lines, and also at the Zone 1150. Liucci, good morning, buddy.
What's up, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm wonderful after that game last night. Aggies win in Omaha. How can you not be good?
A lot of times
I'm talking low like you do when you interview Pat Henry, but I'm doing it because I'm in a hotel. Kind of had to get out of the room, and I'm out in the open, so I don't want to be just loud public guy.
Have you? I know exactly that feeling. But have you ever examined the why behind my? You think I talk lower with Pat Henry? Do you think it's because I'm matching him, or is it because sign of respect?
It's both. It's definitely both. Y'all are both very. You sound like you're at over a dinner table with wine, and that's just how I picture it. I listen to it all. I could listen to Pat Henry talk all day, but we have noticed that you change your voice to match his levels. That's something that maybe is well known throughout the office.
Well, there's a lot that is said, and then I find out about it later, and I laugh about it. But let's talk about this baseball team. So you're there. I saw some nice pictures that you've posted out there. Tell me about the vibes, and then we'll talk about the game itself, because I usually don't like nail biters, and that wasn't a nail biter at the end, but it felt like it for a big portion.
Well, anything in Omaha feels like a nail biter. You're up. I was actually talking to some of the guys last night. It's 5-1 in the ninth inning, and they get a base runner, and it becomes a nail biter. And it's just the way it goes with college baseball. And as soon as you write off a team like Kentucky, they'll come up and force spot you. I mean, you saw Tennessee do it in game one of this whole thing, right? Or game two against Florida State. So it can happen anytime. And so that's kind of, you have a good one. So that's kind of just, you're sitting there and you know how important those wins are. And to get to 2-0, Kentucky knew it, A&M knew it, Fosh knew it. Mingio knew it. Like, to get to 2-0, you are in the driver's seat. Now, you haven't done anything yet. I mean, look, you're going to have to – I'm watching that game last night, and they're up 5-0, right? And Prager, we'll talk about in a second, has been perfect, literally just flawless. And you get two guys on second and third, you have to take them out. You know, it's so precarious in teams like Kentucky and Florida, and it's just so hard to close them out, send them packing, and beat them. And it's going to be A&M's task on Wednesday, and, you know, hopefully not an even more shorthanded A&M, but that's certainly within the realm of possibility. I think we're all aware of that, but this team has time and time again shown that there's just something about them, right? And, yeah, there was a weird sense of confidence. And I'll tell you, the people around Omaha, the people around college baseball, and the people I talked to on Sunday night, you know, they didn't think it was any issue. I mean, they're like, you guys can beat Kentucky. You're better than Kentucky, and it's not because they were disrespecting Kentucky. Most people right now think A&M's just that good. They really do. Like, people outside of our bubble, people not in Maroon White, they think A&M's that good, and they've thought. I think since this thing started, I think the majority have thought that A&M and Tennessee are on a collision course for that final. And look, again, I think the Aggies' task is much more daunting when you factor in the injuries and you know, just the side of the bracket. But that Kentucky team you saw yesterday will not be the same Kentucky team that plays tomorrow night. That Florida team that A&M saw in Game 1 will not be the same, because that extra game you have to play and what it does to your pitching is such a freaking swing, man, isn't it? It's such a swing. So the fact that they're going to have to play today, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys talked about it, but with this weather, it wouldn't surprise me if that night game doesn't come off. So then I don't know, and I haven't asked. I don't know the scheduling change that would take place and what kind of pressure that would put on whichever team wins that game. I mean, would they have to play an early, you know, doubleheader Wednesday? I mean, I don't know how that would go. So that would certainly be something to pay attention to, because they might be even more taxed than were they able to play tonight.
Billy, I'm looking at the schedule, the weather hour by hour. I see thunderstorms starting there at 5 o'clock, but mostly cloudy and windy throughout. And then it's thunderstorms 5 through midnight. So, and it continues on beyond that. And somebody had texted in the show earlier that they had heard if the game gets pushed back, it would be 10 a.m. tomorrow and a doubleheader. I don't know how accurate that is, but it seems very possible.
Well, I mean, there's a TV element where those championship games are going to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I don't think, let's just keep it simple and just say that would make sense. That would make the most sense, just without knowing the rules and kind of how things are. That would make the most common sense.
Ryan Brauninger, we touched on it, but just a masterful performance. And really, we shouldn't be surprised. For the most part, that guy's had like 1 or 2 blemishes all year long. This is what he does. I mean, I'm not saying he does no hitters for 6 innings, but the kind of performance we got from yesterday, as magical as it was, he does that. People ground out. People pop out against him.
He's one of the best pitchers in college baseball. He proved it again last night. I said before the game, you're talking about one of the top 2 or 3 pitchers in the Southeastern Conference. Are you watching what the SEC is doing in this tournament? I mean, the only SEC teams that have lost are the ones that have lost to A&M, basically. And the only ACC teams that have won beat the ACC team. I mean, it's been total and complete domination. But, yeah, Prager, speaking of domination, was incredible last night. And I'm watching that game, and I'm sitting there going 0-0. Man, we're getting to about the midpoint of the game. And I'm going, A&M needs to score. A&M needs to score. But also in the back of my mind, I'm like, Prager can do this for a while. And, you know, I'm literally trying to not even think about the no-hitter. But I'm just like, he can pitch like this deep into the game. Here's the experience thing. We watched A&M win a 1-0 game with Prager on the hill against Hagen Smith in Arkansas. So that game was kind of feeling like that, minus the Hagen Smith striking so many people out, but it was feeling like that. And I don't know, there's just an odd sense of confidence that Prager and the Aggies were going to figure out a way to get it done. But there's so many people in that game that just, how about Stewart coming in? Have we talked about that enough this morning? I'm really bummed, Nuño, that we did we had fun at the post-game wrap, and I don't know that it, I guess it didn't record properly. Our cameras messed up, so we're trying to figure that out, Zane and Katie and Jamie, and Bonnie, Zane, and I'll probably sit down and do a podcast at some point today to make up for it. But, man, how about coming in that game, in that setting, and being known for your slider and just going fastball, just pumping, just gas, and striking the guy out to get out of that jam. And then, oh, by the way, Jace gets hurt, which we need to talk about. But Jace gets hurt, and I don't know that I remember a more significant defensive shakeup in a game of that magnitude. The way they had to shake up their defense is like what you do when you're up on, and I know they played a close game against them, but like, Prairie View or Nicholls State or Tarleton in a midweek game when you're up, 12-3 in the 7th inning. Like, that was the kind of amount of defensive changes you saw just from that one injury. It was crazy. They're on their third right fielder in essentially, 3 games, right? Or 4 games. Third right fielder in 4 games. Jenk goes from second to third, and Bell comes in, who's going to be a great player, but hasn't seen much action like that this year as a true freshman. You move Grahovec to left field, where I don't think we've ever seen him. That's just insane amount of position changes, and it wasn't like they had to hold up for an inning. They had to hold up for a third of a baseball game, and they did that. I think there was the one error, and then great play by Kent to wipe it out, on the next hitter. So everyone stepped up, man. Up and down the lineup, Camarillo with that run scoring double, and then you had Kent with his massive hit. You had Schott getting it going. Teddy Burton with a couple of knocks. Appel was pretty freaking incredible in that game, both behind the plate and then these guys. If you think they're not more than the 3 big sluggers at the top of the lineup and Prager, then you haven't watched this baseball team. And by now, I think everybody's watched them and everybody's aware of that. But I think even we, as fans and those covering, when you've got a Friday night ace and when you've got 3 guys that combined for 80 home runs basically this year, 75 home runs, it's easy to get lost in that. But this is a team. This is a team. And what those 2 pitchers did last night, if you got to throw Ostenbeck for 5 innings tomorrow night, you can do it. Quartet, they are that effort to only throw 2, and that to me, that effort last night sets you up to get through this thing in one game, and it's going to be hard. It really is. Look, you're either going to face that Florida lineup again, or you're going to face a Kentucky team that probably feels like they got a lot to prove after getting smacked around, in the second half of that game. Billy, that's an elite Kentucky team and a good Florida team. You're going to have to beat one of them.
Billy, do you want to go super long on this segment or just close out on the next segment? Because we're past the break.
You can go super long because once we come back, you'll wrap it up so quick.
All right. So let's talk Jace then, because obviously, look, I'm a little encouraged. And I haven't talked to the staff, but just the fact that he batted again, to me, was encouraging. The fact that he was walking. Now, that's not to say that it's not going to be an issue, but, I'm encouraged. Did you come away encouraged?
Well, you just never know with soft tissue stuff. You really just never know how long it's going to take with soft tissue. So I understood batting him, but I didn't, I also understand if you watch the way he scored before that, and the way he was running, he couldn't have been in the outfield, and especially not in that outfield. So that's a problem. And then it becomes even more of a problem because if you DH him, what do you do with a red hot hitting Hayden shot? And the way Hayden's hitting right now, how on earth could you think about? So that's going to be something that's going to be real fascinating to watch. The good news, and it's tough because, like I said, you're going to have to either knock off Kentucky or Florida again. Very hard to do. But the good news is if they can do that and Jace can't play, you would actually have 5 days between last night's game and Saturday. So I think it's so important for them that if they can just somehow figure out how to go 1-0 and not have to play that second game, that would be really, really significant. And I do think it's going to be against Kentucky.
Billy, got to drop it there. Thank you very much, buddy.
Nuño, we'll talk to y'all later. Like I said, we're going to try to get a podcast in from the Airbnb they're at today, so that should be fun.
Cool. Make sure everybody subscribes to TexAgs.com. Thank you, Billy.
All right, Nick.
That's Billy Liucci, executive editor, co-owner. Way late for a break. We'll have a short segment on the other side. A little giveaway. That and more. TexAgs. Hey, everybody. Time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com. And your favorites, they'll be on their way. So this segment's going to be the shortest one of the day. It's going to be like 30 more seconds. My thanks to all of our guests, Billy Liucci. We might get him on again tomorrow. Tom Hart, Boomer White, Ryan Brauninger, and, of course, Richard Zane. Tomorrow on the program, we'll have those jokers from Omaha on the program again. I believe we'll have a couple of coaches from the track team join us to get us ready for what's ahead with the Olympics and whatnot. Kendall Rogers, Jason Howell, and, of course, hopefully we'll know who A&M is playing on Wednesday, because maybe they'll find out Wednesday morning. Who knows? That's going to do it for TexAgs Radio on a Tuesday. We will see you all mañana.